again, the convergence of blockchain and AI. Now, with AI, you can expect within this year, we're going to see deepfake so real, you cannot tell the difference. People watching this on live stream, they will not know what's in here.
We're not here.
We're having dinner somewhere else. So to counter that, you need some form of digital watermark. That is actually a cryptographic evidence
that this is real.
Yeah. It's my signature, his signature.
Who puts that? The tech companies? By the way, they're so excited at the back. They're trading crypto on the back of these comments.
It's all your fault. No, we control our private key. It's going to be public
It'll
key.
be personal.
We'll have control.
It's going to be like your irises, your fingerprints. It'll be a digital.
But it's stored on blockchain, witnessed by the global population.
Everybody knows.
Cannot be faked.
Yeah. But does this change everything for just capital markets?
It will. Yeah, I mean, my gosh, if we could tokenize bonds and stocks tomorrow, one of the great things that BlackRock is being accused of is how much vote we have. I wouldn't vote anymore because we would be able, through tokenization, to know the owner of record instantaneous, and each owner of record will do their proxy voting. I would love that outcome. No, but it would democratize investing in all ways that we can't imagine.
Even political systems, how you vote in a country can be changed by that.
And do you think that, again, the Trump administration will accelerate that?
I think they're moving that direction. How far they actually will go remains to be seen.
But if you do have a digital validator, like your fingerprints or your irises, I mean, you could tokenize voting, you could do everything. And so it will change how we think and how we live and what we do. And
we've been talking to some Southeast Asian governments, including Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. All of them historically have the populations who are treating black market bitcoins and what have you. But now the governments are realizing U.S. is driving a global policy shift. So they're now doing something very clever. They're saying, you know what, we're going to issue a new form of digital ID every single citizen. Along with that is a digital wallet.
Which Brazil and India has already done.
This is supposed to be a short discussion on the paper that Professor Bande had already very well articulated. And I think it speaks to the state of democracy and how to enhance national cohesion and good governance. But I think it's right to start by acknowledging that all over the globe, democracy is in retreat. And that recession is probably even more intense on our continent when you see the rise of militarism again across the Sahel. And at least in the last 2-3 years, we've had failed and successful coup d'etats in 9 countries. 6 of that in our own region, West Africa. In Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Guinea.
Yeah, so these intellectuals, yet idiots, who in this case, not that necessarily not having skin in the game, because that would be overreaching, but for sure, their own reality is different from an average Nigerian reality. So from time to time, they assemble themselves and speak grammar. You know, that only makes sense to themselves. And again, so by so doing, they just expose their cowardness and foolishness and stupidity to the rest of the world. To their amusement, of course. So we are going to be bombarded. They are trying so hard. I don't notice this thing since last year, especially the opposition. They are trying so hard to make democracy at the centerpiece of their campaign. And that's to tell you how far they are from the reality of the majority. So they are working so hard. They started from Accra with the Democracy Dialogue, which is put together by Goodluck Ebele Foundation. They assembled themselves in Ghana, mesmerizing themselves with Dogo Turanchi. I think, let me see, I have one of those, I think the same thing that I felt of that gathering. What this our
There are two questions, and I have a third issue.
you know that event was held the same day Bola Tinubu released Simi Lai Fubara from democratic jail, Abina dictatorship jail, however you want to see it, whatever it is, you are fucking right. So it was a very, I don't know what they mean, what was the whole play, because Bola Tinubu was out of the country. That was the very day, the 6 month of Fumilais Fubara, the governor of Rivers State, was his 6 month suspension was elapses, and he has to go back to office. So it was, in a way they were celebrating, in a way they were angry, mix of all emotions from Rivers State to Asu Rock and to opposition. But the opposition were divided. I said that because when they went to Accra with Goodluck Jonathan under the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation, and title of that dialogue was death of democracy, a failure of democracy. But the whole grammar and speeches then was on how democracy died. So from that day, I concluded that this is where the obedience are going to be headed. So they don't know yet, but now they will condition them to follow. The idea of production to consumption, consumption to production, all those corruption. Bola Tinubu is sick, he's old, it's off the fucking window. So they're going to be against Muslim, find a way to go against Muslim tickets, one, go against old age, two, then democracy. One of these things will take center stage, and I'm leaning towards democracy because they are still on and on and on and on and on and on at that on this year. Fantasy. People who start democracy, they don't pause am first. They pause am first, make they run things, make they put things together. They say we they force am on us. Now we want save them. The irony. Just like as we want civic Christianity, we'll come to that too. My southern people. Now, one save Jesus Christ. We shall saw. It's all right. So we deceive ourselves. Well, no, we deceive ourselves. These men, we sabi to go to Ranchi, they speak to justify their London School level economic degree, Harvard and you name it, the Columbians of this world. So they go bombazo us with uh, how we have to save democracy. If no be us, democracy will not go exist. So they will push us by they'll keep telling us that 2027 is about democracy. Oh. They will use that word, the phrase like a charm. They will use and finish us. Every corner you go, every platform you go, democracy has to be safe. As they want save Christianity too. Like if we say it's enough time, like say if they push and I think if you say nepa light to I be the light will just come on. Talk them enough. The light will come on, but it will stay on. But it never work. So that stop the way we go to in terms of the majority. We aren't practicing democracy, we are practicing a civilization of survival. That's exactly what the leads are they thinking. We ain't gonna figure out or we don't know yet. So when you go to that pool, come 2027, there will go there. Waiting day of mind. A lot of majority, like 4 out of every 5 Nigerians, when they approach that polling booth, that day with they won't vote. They're not looking for a man or a woman that will build that will actually have the political will, the audacity, and whatever is there to take and them the consequences and put you the people first. No, you ain't gonna see that. You will see 4 out of every 5 Nigerian heading to that vote on that day, looking for a man and woman who speak their language. Looking for a man and woman who pray to the same God like them. That would be what is going to be on the ballot. In our own 4 out of every goddamn 5 Nigerians we have that at the back of their mind. And they're going there because this man speak the same language like me, or this man have the same God like me. The rest of us who don't fall into that group we're inconsequential anyway. We are too small. Because that's how we have been programmed. That if your person is not there, you don't exist. Pretty much, that's what it means. If your person is not there, you are a stranger in this whole land, this whole fucking country that we don't know what it is. That is the issue. So we have over 250 tribes and 2 great religion. But we have yet to find out. We have to define what that one Nigeria is. We use the ballot to settle ancient scores. Now they will begin Arachi to go and get your PVC. What? To do what? To build walls around your own altar. So we have turned our ancestors' pride into a weapon against our own neighbors' progress. That's pretty much what we do. And every one of us understand this. So in 2027, the candidates will come. They will wear your clothes, follow you, fry gari, walk out for streets, do borehole for you, all kind of shit. And recite the Quran, the Bible every fucking minute as they go from one to another. But remember, on God day, as no tribe, inflation does not fucking hear. Everybody feel that you're fucking Christian or you're Muslim. Don't get checked before they will swallow you. So democracy, now the tools, but civilization is in our soul. At the depth of our heart, it's about our civilization. And I'm a Yoruba man, I'm an Igbo man, I'm a Hausa man, I'm a Fulani man, I'm a Christian, I am a Muslim. Outside these 5 prisons, every other prison don't count, according to them. So, once we hear all the grammar, this is his observation about what transpired in Ghana last year.
issue that I think, Ruben, you need to address. But let me start with the questions you have raised. I think first the issue of INEC. I think everybody is fairly aware that INEC, as presently constituted, has lost a lot of credibility. And it is very important that the institution gains this credibility. Otherwise, the stability of the country is going to be threatened. Because when you have institutions that are not delivering, and especially a key institution like INEC, and if this failure continues, then it will erode not only, confidence in INEC, but confidence in democracy itself. And when that happens, you know the consequences. So let me come back to INEC. I think there are amendments that the whole country is waiting for. For example, that amendment, which I think late President Buhari refused to give assent to, which mandates INEC to use electronic electronic tools and to use technology in delivering the result, is still pending. But more importantly, why should the president, whoever is the president of the country, who is an interested party in the election, be the one to propose the head of INEC? I think late Uwais committee has made very good recommendations, which have been blocked by those who are interested in manipulating INEC. I think we have to rescue INEC by making sure that the head of INEC is not appointed by a sitting president who is going to be interested in election. So there are a number of things that needs to be done. I'm not sure there is sufficient time for us to raise that, but I think the key issues are two. One, that INEC's credibility is at stake, and two, we have got to insulate INEC from political interference. If that doesn't happen, then it is the democracy that is holding the country that's being actually run down. And when that happens, there are consequences. The second question, if I remember correctly, which you raised, is where do we go from here? Considering what former President Jonathan said. And I think it ties down with the issue that I really think you should be raising, because the whole gathering in Accra is around the crisis of democracy, that democracy is not delivering the expectations of the people. And in Nigeria, if you take the statistics from 1999 to date, that's about 25 years. If you take the indices of development, whether you are taking the paternal and maternal mortality rates, or if you are taking the GDP, the growth in the economy, if you are taking all the indices of development that you take, you will see that from 1999 to date, we have been going down the drain. In fact, the GDP for this year is said to be much lower, actually about less than half of what it was in 1960. In other words, this country, under this democracy, is actually going down the drain. And it is time to really ask, of what use, of what benefit is democracy if it cannot really deliver? Is democracy made for the people or people for democracy? If democracy is supposed to serve society, then it has failed in Nigeria. And it is time to start thinking of how do we really bring about a system that can work for us. I watched the debate from beginning to the end, and I was saddened by the fact that the elite that gathered there could not think out of the a box of Western frame of thinking. In other words, they were all, and especially the guest speaker himself, he was going round and round while admitting the failure of democracy. He was still saying that we should stick to democracy. And that doesn't make sense. You have admitted that this system has failed to deliver. And you are saying that we should still hang on to it.
They don't stop him. They need to stop him. Sharp, sharp. You are. That's not why we. That's not why you're here, sir. So now, fast forward to this year. That was last year. We will see it stand. But first of all, let's hear from this hustler first.
Of course, in Niger, right on top of us, in Chad, and then in Guinea-Bissau. 6 in the last 2 years. The very well articulated. And I think it speaks to the state of democracy in our country and how to enhance national cohesion and good governance. But I think it's right to start by acknowledging that all over the globe, democracy is in retreat. And that recession is probably even more intense on our continent when you see the rise of militarism again across the Sahel. And at least in the last 2-3 years, we've had failed and successful coup d'etats in 9 countries. 6 of that in our own region, West Africa. In Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Guinea, of course in Niger, right on top of us, in Chad, and then in Guinea-Bissau. 6 in the last 2 years. If we stretch that a little further, we've seen this also happen in Equatorial Guinea. We've seen it happen in down south. And of course, authoritarianism is on the globe.
Oh, now I want to save democracy.
Including
now
populist authoritarianism on the back of democratic support. Some leaders have used the instrumentality of constitution to even create constitutional coups. We've known and heard of third-term agendas across the board in many countries.
Why are you
So clearly,
the opposition already? You see the game they are playing.
we have had to deal with this, and all surveys, major respected surveys of the quality of democracy around the world.
So you see the wayo way you want to do for the and put it that way. You talk about how some people even use the democratic process as coup to take power instead of him to use the current sitting president to whom he is working for, because the system that this government adopts is the same system that even the current Donald Trump administration is adopting. The team that work in Nassau Rock or the team that work in White House and the teams that work off the grill, off the official list, those unofficial lists are, if they are not equally powerful, they are more powerful, right? That's why when people like Tunanja, they quote them Candice Owen, Tucker Carlson, those are like, you don't understand the role these people are playing, don't understand the game, right? The likes of Steve Bannon, who was in before, now is out there. These guys, their influence on according to Steve Bannon, the low propensity voters, which is those people who are not, in hybrid information consumer like me and you that are here every day, or more conscious and more paying attention. So those people who are the low spectrum of information, so those are the people referred as low propensity. So those people are the base, if you want to go in a more formal way. So you have to have a very strong equal those people focus on the goal, which is to not just to elect the man, but to keep him in power. and keep everybody ideology that will underpin their coming together. Tinubu is doing the same thing. You know, people like them Fire She, people like them Fire Me, people like them this media house LTV, Lagos Television, this Kogi man. You know, to mention but a few people that you think are supposed to be inside, but they didn't make it. Those people have their role playing outside. So that's exactly what this guy is. So he's talking about how some person, a group of people use the instrumentality of democracy to seize power in form of a coup. He jumped Ballot Tinubu of take a grab it and run and went straight to Obasanjo, thought an agenda, right? By saying that how some people use it to open to the agenda. And that is because Obasanjo is pretty much still the biggest voice of what will be as it is. So, and that you open them bizarre. So, well done. And of course, Atambawa colloquium, as their colloquium that has nothing to do with the Talakawas, you know. He has accepted himself and said that democracy may be our problem. It's okay.
Speak to these issues, whether it is Freedom House or on our continent, the Mo Ibrahim Governance Index, or even the Afrobarometer. All these surveys speak to a decline in the quality of our democracy. But that decline does not necessarily align with our people's commitment to democracy. Our people are still very, very committed. And Afrobarometer actually speaks to 80% of Africans still believe in democracy, and 80% reject one-party rule or one-man rule, or 66% reject military rule. However, that same survey, the latest survey of Afrobarometer in 2025, speaks to a growing acceptance for pre-overthrow of democratic government where the leaders have captured the instruments of governance and subverted it against the people.
If you carry out a survey in a country and only 66 say yes, that they don't support military rule, you should be scared. You should be fucking scared. Because 34% is fucking more than enough. 50% say the leaders of the country, the democratic leaders of the country will reshuffle things. You're talking about 34%, and you are saying that the Nigerian people are still fucking with democracy. Okay.
Our own country, we know that there is a certain level of resentment that democracy has not delivered the goods in terms of economic benefits, improved quality of life, security, and progress. Generally,
when I thought someone know they speak English again, and I have things like this, I would like here I make it talk out for Yoruba. What is the meaning of some resentment? How you go take talk out? Anybody they hear Yoruba for their Hausa or Igbo? How you go take talk some resentment? Nigeria have some resentment against democracy.
Generally speaking, that is cumulative. It's not something that you blame on one particular administration, but after 25, 26 years of democratization, Nigerians are not happy with what they are seeing. They may not be calling for coup d'etat or calling for a Venezuelan type intervention, but they are generally displeased with the quality of our democratization. And clearly, many of us in this room are players in that space. And that is why we have here people who have extensive experience of looking at these issues and coming to the conclusion, how do we improve the quality of our democracy? How do we
Not just if they can't drugs these people there, man. Because I don't think this is beyond being miseducated or like I mean, how do you explain the same day, the same period, the same moment that the superpower of this world just can't use our ground as a test run for the latest weaponry or to dispose the old ones? But that's not just enough. He promised that more are coming. That's not just the most ridiculous thing. The man, the called president, to which you don't want to acknowledge that he used the instrument of democracy to carry out a coup, is nowhere to be found. And these motherfuckers are here talking about the Nigerians are still fucking with democracy. You are not even fucking with democracy in the first place. Oh wow. I just can't believe this. At a time when literally the whole world they reshuffle. This is the fucking kind of conversations I want. I mean, how man. There must be something else that is giving these people this kind of confidence. You know, it's not that because it's not that the Anambra Nigeria is still, 6 months behind the happenings of this world. No, this is the Anambra Nigeria is also in sync with the rest of the world in terms of this is things are happening in real times. If to say 1960 we see the when for no years they kidnap what's it called Maduro until like 6 months after. Now we read for history books. But this one, as it happen, all of us they see them live. But for these camp people, they see have confidence to see they talk that as if we Nigeria all is well, even all is well, we are exempted. We are not part of the local community called the global world that is currently being rearranged by those people that put it together. But for some reason, our these people that know it all don't give a shit.
How do we address this winner-take-all problem that we have, in which you can be a minority winner that discounts and excludes other voices in a democratic project? And how do we ensure that those levers of democracy, elections, the media, the judiciary, the legislature, are not subverted in the process of improving the quality of democratization? I've got here with me Professor Patu Tomi, who has been at the barricades for long, with us in the anti-military struggle, along with Dr. Osman Bugaje, and of course our former chair in the House of Representatives, my sister, the chair of Foreign Relations Committee. My sister Eugenia Abu talked about me taking on broadcasting as a new profession. I think she forgot that I was a broadcaster. I ran Radio Kudirat, and that was a tool of democratization and democracy. So I'm still in the business of broadcasting. So, Prof, how do we deal with this? Because our audience is fast losing patience.
Thank you.
Let's listen to what you say.
This is a very serious matter.
Good for nothing.
Because if we don't deal with it honestly and digest it well and do something, let me tell you what the possibilities are. Because sometimes we forget what the outcomes can be. We can be Sudan. It is very possible. And so we all need to be very sensitive discussing this matter. Democracy matters. The Afrobarometer surveys that the moderator referred to at a think tank in Washington, where I was a fellow until a few months ago, we actually had.
Imagine.
I see people when they follow these camp people. Now, thank God they didn't talk at times. When I mention that, people would know they either understand what I'm trying to say, or they just not say these guys don't even know what they talk. Importantly, they don't even understand what it means to actually work where he works. First of all, who is Woodrow Wilson? And again, I will challenge anybody. Now, the man will say, okay, you, the European country, just go and use Africa to rebuild your economy back. That president of America. So it works at the center. That means what does his center represent? Of course, his own ideologies. So you have to either believe in that school of thought to be able to be a fellow there, or you are using to achieve one objective, their aim. The two can be truth. So if you understand why the northern, people, at time when I mean people, some of the northern, political animals, who are mainstream, don't really fuck with him. It's just because they understand. they are not just they are more historian. Those are the managers that we see. They are more historians than all these are professor where they come here. Is the brag. Is the center where I worked before. Just like Obi said with the brag. I gave school back to Christianity. And Ingo Kon the surprise why Muslim ticket they win. Like we are all fucked up people. I don't say that day why they push back on Hassan using he tried to equate the yes daddy call and the Muslim ticket. Those are on the Obi side are fucking happy. But if we actually people like us who belong to the minority in every sector, both the religious angle we are minority, both the ethnicity, however you see them. So it's easy for us to see all the foolishness all these people they display. Obi they brag all the time at any opportunity we get. I intend to turn school back to the churches when he was the governor of Anambra. And people go they clap and cha 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 cha. But they all come outside again. They shout Sharia law again. I'm making Sharia law. Nigga. Boy, my country. These people, they deceive themselves. They deceive themselves. Anyway.
The leaders of the Afrobarometer team come and spend time with us, deeply analyzing the test results. Very clear. The point is that Africans want democracy, but they don't like what they see. They don't like state capture, which is what has happened in many countries. They don't like politicians making politics about themselves and not the people. And they don't like the kinds of institutions that are responsible for shepherding a democracy. Many people would like to see everybody who's been in INEC in jail in this country. I can tell you that. Most ordinary Nigerians would like to see that. But how do we reasonably resolve those problems? We have to recognize that democracy is about how to give our children tomorrow. If we recognize that, then as people, I mean, thankfully, most of us here have now hit 60 and gone past it. One of the things we know is that life is very short. And all this vanity disappears very quickly. The only thing that matters is the immortality of giving our children the possibility of saying, our forebears give us a better life. And democracy can make that happen. I turn to my Asian friends. I've said to severally that I've stopped using Asian examples because people think it's far away, esoteric. The other day somebody was interviewing me and quoted a page from Lee Kuan Yew commenting on Nigeria in 1975. I said, look, I used to give that example. I particularly like to give the example of Mahathir Mohamad and inclusion. You know, Mahathir Mohamad borrowed from Lyndon Baines Johnson after the riots in Malaysia, after he was expelled from UMNO, and then eventually recalled. The point that it is better for everybody to be inside the house, pissing out, than for some people to be outside the house, pissing in. Nigeria cannot make progress. I want to bet anybody here. The divisive nature of society we have now, we won't make any progress. We can deceive ourselves. But inclusion is the first thing. How do we ensure that everybody is inside the house so we can be pissing out rather than outside that house? How do we build institutions that ensure accountability? Government democracy is about accountability. If you don't have accountability, we're talking about tax. Where did tax become really an issue? Because taxation without representation is essentially a non-starter in a democratic order. That's the Boston Tea Party. Where is the representation that ensures that you can tell how the money that you are taxed, that is collected from your tax, is used? It's not by civil servants running around in SUVs. Go to Egypt. Like I said, I don't give Asian examples anymore. Go and look at what President Sisi is doing in Egypt. The enormous progress he's making everywhere. And you don't see civil servants or politicians running around in SUVs because they are accounting for the use of the people's resources in different ways. We have not encouraged that to happen in our country.
Okay, inclusion, quality representation. Dr. Buraji, I would, because she represents part of that excluded group. If you look at our political participation and you see what is happening to our parliament, gender representation is a disgrace in Nigeria. And I'm just asking you, Inena, to speak to that. It's to really capture how inclusion can be qualitatively improved and how that can then deal with all the other issues that have come with our democratic project. Yes. Honorable Koje.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm glad you just didn't sequester me to the gender agenda. But let me say that one of the greatest problems that we have, and I listened to Professor Jega speak, was when he spoke about non-inclusion. But again, it's important as well to agree there's a consensus that democracy is imperiled globally. And be it for exclusion, be it because the people are pushing the very levers of constitutional reach, be it because we have very weak centers and strong people that go out of their way to weaken the structure, systems and institutions, or be it because it is not truly representative, democracy is obviously imperiled. But as you say, there is absolutely nothing, and everything has been done with regards to inclusion, from sunshine laws to government structures, institutions trying to speak to inclusiveness, to the tokenism by the political parties. But we've come to realize, and the Chinese put it very succinctly, that you can't hold up the sky with one hand. And that's exactly what's happening in Nigeria. That over 50% of the population is excluded from mainstream democratic inclusion. So also over 70% 50% of our population is below the age of 40. So what is the percent?
See, that's why when people they support this whole foolishness of let's allocate a seat to women. No, you guys they want to lock women for one corner. And this is the reason why. Because the only people that actually speak direct to issue and bear the consequences are women. And again, that is because they are speaking out of that saying that say ignorance at times is bliss. Women were excluded from some of the treaties, some of the all their foolish and stupid agreement they were having since from the imperialism days. How many women when they were going back and forth London to actually organize to see to negotiate for the Nigerians that we have today. So most of the women are on they are not aware, they are not directly on the known of the things that actually underpin the state called Nigeria. Those that are on the know, those are aware, those are find out one to the other. It is not because of their, it's not due to their direct involvement, but because they are either spouse or relation of those people who are involved. So that's why when they speak the way they see things like every other Nigerian sees it, without undergoing the pain of trying to be politically correct or trying to find one history that does not make any sense. Just like Pato Tomi, who is working at a Woodrow Wilson Center in DC all this while. A man who believed that the black man is not even capable of governing himself. As at the time, he was a president, as a southern man. Under him, World War I was fought. So when I say now, literally, Nine officially gave the order for the European country to go and demarcate Nigeria that you are, the African country that you have today, I'm not missing words. But again, this is one of some of the reasons they don't want women to have equal competition in this game. How can you say you have to allocate it to 50% people who are 50% of the population? Literally, women are 50% of the if they are not even more. Say Mugu allocate 6 to them. That's an insult. But because they see us, most of them are young women who are born after the Civil War, so they are literally innocent of the deals that are still running our life today. So they will govern from the modern way of doing things, the way they see things. They are more Nigerian than any other than the men themselves.
Representation of the youth in Nigeria. It is next to nothing, and I won't speak again about all the other groups. But Professor Jega's paper spoke about an elite consensus. But when you speak about an elite consensus, it is the assumption that there is the well and thriving middle class, that the elite is empowered enough to be a part of the democratic process, that the elite is in the room pissing in, as Professor Patitomi said. But the truth of the matter is that post-COVID, post-bad economic policies, this is the most disempowered that Nigerians have been. And so when you look for that elite consensus that speaks to education, again, as he said, because, of course, one of my favorite quotes on democracy is by JFK, where he says that democracy and learning are indispensable to one another. When you look at the level of illiteracy or lack of education. And even when we do have education in the National Assembly as well as in the governance structures in Nigeria, a large percentage of the people who claim to be educated are roaming the streets with forged certificates. So it therefore brings to the question whether indeed Nigeria is ready with this elite to drive the conversation. Now, as far as inclusion is concerned, I would always say that for the
talk about that elite, are the problem which pretty much underpin why I support good Monday Paulo. People don't understand what I mean. I think this woman is making a broader point. This idea of elite. How many of us, how many people be elite? How many? Whatever parameter you want to use, education, money, business, finance, military cohesion, whatever parameter you want to draw this elite, you can talk about. We are less than, I dare to say, no more than 5% of the population. That is driving everybody crazy. And they say they should have a consensus, elite consensus. Who are again, women should not be allowed to sit to be allocated. No, they should have equal. Should allow them to go at this thing. Matter of fact, they should allow them at this point. Money. I don't think money is the issue. Money will not be the issue for them if they say they should present their own presidential candidate, and we should vote according to gender. Oh, the overwhelming landslide victory where they go get. Oh man. Women like to do that. They will come out in mass they'll be motivated by various for many things. So there's a reason why they want to allocate it to them, just to cage them and shut them up forever. Because, as I said, the men know say they don't do them wrong for a very long time. They were refused to be included in the negotiation process of what is called Nigeria today. And up to today, the governing process, they were still all excluded. How many of these women are founding members of the political parties? When we go hear men, when they come out, my signatory, obviously they run a matter here, which they, I am equally made that. When was the last? When you ever hear a woman come out for Nigeria and say yes, I have my signature is among the founding member of this party? Waiting, I think that's stupid and dumb and foolish. No. But now because of things like this, as I said, depriving them of or carrying them along the process of the stake on Nigeria is a weapon that they can use or they are using. That the idea is to weaponize, to make them victims, to make them not. Give them. How would I say? The idea is to give men a head start, even though they don't want to pronounce out, they don't want to put it that way directly. Because we are talking about 60 years, so nobody say 1860. But we never included, even up to the point of Fourth Republic of in the 90s, they were also included in forming the political party process. So they know little about the secrets that these men are working with. But again, it's still a good thing. What they say, if you want to go with that saying, knowledge is bliss, it's a good thing. Because they don't know, they speak direct to what they know. They know that's in which they don't know. They not shape their narrative, not shape their presentation, will not shape their reality compared to the men.
all all of us collectively must have a shared vision. What does Nigeria mean to all of us? For all of us sat here, first of all, most of us are first Igbo, for instance, before Nigerian, or Hausa, for instance, or Fulani, for instance, before Nigerian. We must come to the place where there's the inclusiveness of us, where we have a shared vision. What is the Nigerian vision? And I must ask the question that when all of you who were in the progress or in the movement for democratization,
There's no vision, nothing.
could this ever have been the Nigeria you envisioned? Could this ever have been the country you envisioned, where the truth, where government, rather than get better after 26 years, is retrogressing in such a way that the constitution, the bulwark of our democracy, use where the people who are supposed to, who have the most important office in democracy, have been excluded from everything that happens in the country. So
Okay. I mean, it's a very consensus around that, but at least consensus on the simple fact that we need to do better than we're doing. And that's the point.
That's not the point. Do better than what they are doing on what? So what are we improving? What do we need to improve on? That's the question she's placing before you guys. What is that consensus? What is that thing that we need to improve on, that we are building or that we are failing at? Again, because they were not carrying along the whole process of what they call Nigeria, it's empowered them to just speak to exactly the way things are, the way they see it. See, the men who pretty much are on the field, are on the known, and are struggling to actually counter what is obvious to the blind.
I would like Dr. Bugaje to address. Can democracy thrive where poverty and inequality is rife? Totally inexhaustible, but I want to thank you for highlighting those critical issues you've raised, which coheres with what the speaker actually said around leadership recruitment process. But even when you get leadership recruitment right, and you have people of capacity, competence, and character in office, if it is a majoritarian process based on this cycle of electoralism, every 4 years we roll out the drums to just have elections, we're not going to have democracy. Elections do not a democracy make. Election is an important part of the process, but it is not the sufficient answer to our democratic deficit. And I think, in addition to what you've said, we need to begin to look, if we want national cohesion, we need to begin to look at other forms of representation. I would say proportional representation. We have just had an election in this country in 2023. The winner of the election had 37%. If you believe the numbers. And that's 37% of 20% turnout. If you believe the numbers. And we add other people other contestants that had 21%, 18%, and 10%, which we have largely excluded. In countries where democracy has improved, they always build it on national consensus, and every vote will be relevant. Every vote will be taken into account. Majoritarian democracy is not working for us. We need to figure out a proportional representation mechanism that allows every vote to count if we want to improve on our system. I will give
House piecing out. That is one very important thing. But even beyond that, the problem of this country is that we are looking for a messiah. This one great man who will solve our problems. What we need is collective responsibility by a group of elite that hold that person that is called president accountable first to themselves before to the people. And they can say to him, no, you can't go that way. We have agreed as the leaders of this political party that you cannot go that way. I was a young man but involved in the Shagari administration. And I know the kind of consensus that came during that time. My favorite game was looking out from my window in Dudan Barracks. You know, President Shagari was a smoker, but he never smoked inside the office. He would come out to smoke in the field. And I would quickly dash down to go and engage the old man in a chat. And you will see a true Democrat who believed in the views of all the people counting. It's not happening today, and that's why we are the mess we are.
I don't know, you've had your chance. We're talking about inclusion.
Well, thank you very much. I've listened to, and thank you for your great contributions, Dr. Bugaji. But I think that with everything that you've highlighted, the leadership selection process, we all speak as if we don't have 2 years to elections. We're speaking as if there is no government today. And I think that what is most important is that the most important office in any democracy is the office of the citizen. And today the citizens exist. And I believe that we don't need to wait for the next election cycle for us to start that consensus that realizes that we are not only equipped to hold government to account, but it is our duty to hold government to account. And so unless and until the citizens in this country decide that we want a democracy that works, are willing to walk that journey by holding the elected to account, we will never get to the place where we have the leadership selection process that we want. We will never have the conversations about representative democracy. We will never have the conversations about inclusion. So I'm going to put it back to the people and say to the people that democracy is not only about the elected, it is more about the people, and the people need to take responsibility.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for
This woman no hungry.
put it directly to the celebrant.
Try as much as I can to make it about the elite consensus, elite coming together. Part of me come push kind of a consensus. Y'all are still missing the fucking point. So she stand her ground. This is not about your motherfuckers. This is about the people. That's what I keep saying. And for the people to get it, it has to be in small piece. Go take your village, politically speaking, one at a time.
That your job is not finished. Your job has just started. Hajia is not going to take exception to the service you've been rendering. If this office of the citizen must be engaged actively, all of us must play that role. You've been playing it. I totally agree with the speaker who said, my brother can be in Ikotabasi at 8 a.m. in the morning, and he's in Ado-Ekiti by 12 noon, and by 4 p.m. he's in Abakaliki, and finally by dinner time you find him in Maiduguri, all in the spirit for pushing national cohesion. That job has to continue. We all must join you in doing it. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for them.
We're going to cross live now to Abu Dhabi, where President Bola Tinubu is speaking at the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. So let's listen.
Over time, the topic assigned to me for discussion is climate imperatives into economic prosperity, bridging African with global energy future. This topic resonates deeply with Africa's aspiration and challenges. It also underscores a pivotal reality about our dear continent. The fight against climate change is not merely an environmental necessity, but a global economic opportunity to reshape the trajectory of our continent and the global energy landscape. As leaders, stakeholders, and citizens of our planet, we stand at a crucial and critical junction in human history. To succeed, we must innovate, collaborate, and
The people understand the meaning of this speech.
decisively
You understand what Ballot
collaborate as a global community. As Africa's most populous
I think I don't.
nation and one of its largest economies,
No.
Nigeria recognizes its responsibility
Well, if you follow me,
to demonstrate
let's say the beginning of this,
the required leadership
I thought
on these
about the
matters.
globalists and the nationalists.
We have embraced the vision of
So,
sustainability that aligns with global.
Tinubu is caught up in this their globalist and nationalist fight. Now, globalists, the Democrat, now they put Bola Tinubu for power. So that's why they see, say, all this climate change, whatever. Now they can't for it. But since the nationalists came to power, led by Donald Trump, all those shit now were replaced with civilization. Well, let me not even go that far. Trump will come back with drill, baby, drill. And so I don't know that they are telling me to revise some of the which now this climate is way make them actually have a solid relationship with what was his name? China. So that's why the guy people just they say what did they go do for France, what did they go do for France? Don't be France now be the headquarter of climate change. Now remember. That's the headquarter of well, no, we not the headquarter, but they have moved some of their operation center to Paris since Trump done run over DC. So that's why this speech is important.
Aspiration with while addressing the local realities. Our efforts are anchored on three pillars: energy transition, climate resilience, and sustainable development.
Oh, yes, sir.
My administration, we recognize this problem from the word get-go, from inception.
No surprise.
We recognize the importance of reducing carbon emission, a just transition to clean and renewable energy, promoting environmental sustainability and economic growth. Energy transition, dear delegates and all the excellencies, our energy transition plan, like many nations, are aimed at diversifying energy sources and reducing our dependency on fossil fuel, prioritizing the transition to cleaner energy sources as a cornerstone of our national development strategy. Nigeria is committed to achieving a net zero emission by 2060. In line with global climate objectives. We are developing the infrastructure to utilize compressed natural gas and electric vehicles. Nigeria also is investing substantially in energy generation through exploration of fish and internationally certified data required to export our solid mineral and critical metal in support of the green energy transition. Climate resiliency must be achieved. Building resiliency against the adverse effects of climate change is essential for safeguarding our African communities and economies. Nigeria is implementing climate-smart agricultural practices to enhance food security while reducing environmental impacts. The government has approved several developmental policies such as National Clean Cooking Gas Policy, which is aimed at promoting clean energy, environment, and health benefits and socio-economic development in our region. We believe the sustainable development must be inclusive. We are therefore working tirelessly to ensure that our policies promote equity and social justice, leaving no one behind. Challenges versus opportunities in Nigeria, yes, there are, and there will continue to be challenges. But how do you mitigate that? We face serious challenges, environmental challenges, including deforestation, desertification, coastal erosion, flooding, pollution, and many other negative impacts of climate change. Lake Chad continues to shrink every year. Livelihood of people continue to be threatened. Our government is working with local communities to implement solutions to mitigate these effects and help us build resilience in the face of environmental challenges. For resources, to promote a green economy in Africa, we must focus on integrating sustainable practices in all sectors of our economy. This
Now, talk about enduring political relevance. Few leaders have walked as many corridors of Nigeria's democracy as our While a lawyer and politician, Ernie spans the heart of the legislature and the seat of executive power. From presiding over the House of Representatives as Speaker to leading Sokoto State as Governor and now serving in Nigeria. You could say that Senator taken various seats at the top table where Nigeria's fate is decided. So, having been part of the system and having seen it all, how does he now assess this country as it grapples with crippling hardship, raging insecurity, and what his fellow opposition politicians see as a leadership crisis? He's now, of course, a key figure in the ADC opposition coalition, or as he put it, a transitioning figure in the party that's aiming to challenge the APC in 2027. And this weekend, his 60th birthday in Abuja, he delivered an urging that at a time of mounting economic pressure, divisive political realignments, and growing public demand for accountability, Nigeria is in peril and needs collective efforts to save it.
Today is unfortunate. This is not where we expected to be. Those who laid the foundation for this democracy, some alive, many of them are not living. Even in their graves, are not happy with the current situation of Nigeria. Those living who believe in Nigeria, who are genuine about Nigeria, who are not selfish, cannot be happy with the current situation in Nigeria. The only way out of it is for all of us to agree fundamentally wrong.
Senator Tambuwal. So tonight, as he marks his 60th this month, Senator Aminu Tambuwal joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles, for having me.
And congratulations on your 60th birthday. I mean, you've achieved so much in such a fairly short life, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Governor of Sokoto State, and now Senator. What has kept you grounded through the ups and downs of Nigerian politics?
Well, first and foremost, Charles, it is all the grace of God. But I also believe that growing up, I have this conviction in me that endeavors in politics and governance are about the people. It's all about service. And in that mission, I followed through. It has not been rosy. It has not been easy. Right from 2003, when I started seeking for tickets to run for the House of Representatives seat of Cape Tambuwal Federal Constituency. I was in the PDP. I was the state legal advisor of the party. But through some machinations, I was reported to have failed the primaries. So my team and I now negotiated and exited the PDP and joined the ANPP. And it was on the platform of ANPP that I came to the House of Representatives for the first time. So that was the foundation. And in the House of Representatives, Speaker Aminu Bello Masari from day one identified me and saddled me with the responsibility of being Deputy Chair, House Committee on Rules and Business. This is a committee that is at the heart of running the affairs of the Parliament. And of course, as is the tradition, it is only someone that is trusted by the leadership that is given either chairmanship of that committee or deputy chairman. And then we started on that note. Of course, in the course of events, there was some discomfort in the ANPP caucus and minority caucus. Things happened, and my colleagues went against zoning and elected me as minority leader of the House of Representatives in 2005. So it's a continuous back and forth. And then, of course, 2007, we had our issues with the then governor of Sokoto State, Atahadu Bafrawa. Again, he and his team denied me the ticket of their new political party, the DPP. We realigned with Wamako, who was still in ANPP. And then the political situation in the state generated into something that President Obasanjo and his party looked at and took interest and invited Wamako and our team to join the PDP. So in 2007, as a tour, I was on the platform of PDP, ran for a second term, and I won the elections. I came back to the House of Representatives, where my colleagues now tasked me with the responsibility of becoming the Deputy Chief Whip of the House. During the turbulence of whether it should go or remain, virtually all...
That's the woman who was the Speaker of the House at the time.
Madam Speaker.
Yeah.
Virtually all the principal officers were asked to go. But I remained, and then we continued, and I served the full term as Deputy Chief Whip of the House of Representatives. In 2011, I again ran on the platform of PDP, came back to the House, and then my colleagues again went against zoning.
Yes, I was going to say your political life has been characterized by a kind of rebellion, hasn't it?
Well, maybe for want of a better word.
Indeed.
Yeah. Not necessarily rebellion.
Yeah, but rebellion against a particular issue, which is the issue of
rebellion with a cause.
Rebel with a cause.
Yes,
right.
More of that.
And I mean, that's a fascinating synopsis. But just very briefly, so people get a better sense of who you are, where you've come from. Take us back to the beginning. Your political journey began in 2003, and that shaped the politician that you are today. Is that right?
No. I have been involved in politics right from 1996 transition, when political parties were being formed, were under the leadership of late Operation Kafi in ANC, and the party was not registered, and then we had to go and join the DPP, if I may borrow the words of one of the five leprous fingers, if I may borrow the words of Bola Ige of blessed memory, the DPN. I mean, I joined the DPN. You know, we had DPN, UNCP, and the rest of them. So I joined DPN, and I was the state legal advisor of the DPN. So it wasn't 2003.
Right.
But
2003 was when you started coming to prominence.
I started running for office.
Right.
Yes, I mean, elective office.
So having had that fairly long, I mean, as I look at you, as I said, a lot of people would consider you to be still quite young. I mean, you've just turned 60. But having been through all that, how do you feel about the Nigerian political terrain today? Because you've invested so much of your life and your energy into that political system.
Well, Charles, as I did say during the colloquium, this is not where many of us expected Nigeria to be, especially many of us who are on the field of play.
What do you mean by expect?
And even the electorates and many of the leaders of this country do not expect Nigeria of today to be where it is.
This is what you guys do. This is what you guys.
I can say this is largely due to the faulty processes that we have, and you know, in Nigeria we always try to find a way to cut corners and change the system, and then get ourselves where we want to be.
Well, let me pick you up on that.
Without following the due process.
Let me pick you up on that, because looking honestly at Nigeria today, I mean, you've been part of all arms of government, either directly or indirectly. Which level of leadership do you think has failed the people the most? Is it the executive arm of government? I mean, you were a governor. Or is it the legislature? You were Speaker of the House and now Senator, or the judiciary? And I mentioned that because you are a lawyer. Which level of leadership do you think has failed the people the most? Or is it all three?
Well, Charles, let me be very honest with you. I believe that as at today, it's all the three. As at today. At certain times in the past, you may find the executive arm wobbling and the legislature coming in through checks and balances, through the constitutional framework, and strengthen things and reposition the government. You find the judiciary also having some challenges, and then somehow interventions come in, and then, but today, as of today, it's all the levels.
And looking back, what policy decisions during your time as a politician, I mean, you still are, but either previously or currently, what policy decisions do you now believe Nigerians paid the highest price for?
As of today?
Some would say allowing military rule. Some would say, you know, the elections that go sort of haywire in this country.
Military rule was not allowed. They usually force themselves on the country. It wasn't as if there was any choice left for the people. Most of the times they come in and then it's not about them being allowed. But when you talk about democracy, part of the policy decisions that have negatively impacted, I believe, is the electoral process.
Right.
And closely related to the issues of governance and what we find today, in the way and manner the current administration whimsically removed fuel subsidy without any alternative, without any framework, without thinking it through, without consultation with other stakeholders and Nigerians on how best to go about it. Because as at the time it was done, it was clear Mr. President was only interested in removing it without having any plan on his sleeves.
Right.
So that's another policy decision.
Well, let me take the opportunity of you mentioning elections to look forward to 2027, which is the next general election. I'm sure you know that Nigerians are losing faith in elections. That's probably one of the reasons why you brought that up. From what you've seen inside the system, are elections still truly decided by voters in this country or by political power?
No. It's not completely decided by the electorates. I can say that, and without mincing words. We know quite oftentimes that at coalition level, be it at the polling unit, at the ward level, at local government level, at the state level, or even at the national level, things happen that misrepresent what voters actually voted for.
But then you've benefited from elections, and also you've challenged outcomes of elections.
Yes.
Where exactly is the system breaking down? Is it INEC, is it the courts, or the politicians themselves?
Both. It's a combination of both.
Right.
Politicians, yes. As I said in my earlier remarks, they try to find corners to cut. So wherever there's a loophole, politicians take advantage of that loophole. And INEC, from day one, in terms of the day of the election, be it failure of either beavers or failure of whatever technology, and then inability to transmit, even to start the election on time, and then transmit the results, count the results and transmit them. In between, you find INEC officials being compromised.
So would you support full electronic transmission of results nationwide, even if it costs you or your party victories?
I wholeheartedly support any reform that will improve the electoral process of Nigeria, including electronic transmission. Even if I, assuming I'm going to contest an election in 2027, will lose to that process.
Right.
I don't mind.
But you yourself have changed, I mean, you mentioned that at the outset. You've changed political platforms in the past. Many Nigerians see defections as political opportunism. What makes your own decisions different?
Basically, as I said, in 2003, I believe the process was not fair to me. I left and joined the ANPP.
But when you say it wasn't fair to you, you mean you lost?
I lost. It was manipulated,
right.
and I
No,
lost.
but that's what all the other politicians who switched parties
I am
say.
speaking for myself, and
Right.
that's the truth.
Right.
I lost that unfair process. I tested my popularity, and I won in 2003. In 2007, our political leader, then Bafra Sokoto said, I was not popular enough to run. I said, okay. I ported with one Moko's camp. We tested our popularity, and we won. And then in 2007, I had no issues with the ticket. I remained in PDP. In 2011, I had no issues with the ticket. I remained in PDP. In 2015, I was part of the process of the G5 governors who splitted from PDP
to APC.
To form the APC. So it was about my conviction, particularly on issues around and about good governance.
Right. In that regard, is party ideology still relevant in Nigeria? Has it ever had any relevance, or are parties now just vehicles for winning power?
For me, I have my doubt on parties being ideologically driven. It's not. I don't believe so. Thus far, most of the parties have been used just as vehicles or conveyor belts.
So in that regard,
to a
you've
particular destination.
used them as well as a vehicle.
I admit that
Right.
that was the issue. It's not about ideology. Okay, if it's about ideology, what was President Muhammadu Buhari doing in APC with some characters that we have in APC? If it was about ideology, what I don't want to mention names, but if you look at President Muhammadu Buhari then, the way he was being perceived, the way he was being viewed, what was he doing with some characters in politics? As of today, in APC and in PDP, in ADC, we still have, what I may describe as political courts of many colors. I mean, people who ordinarily about ideology should not be strength bedfellows.
Well, talking about characters, I mean, you once ran for president under the banner of the PDP.
Yes.
And it was reported that your main backer for the ticket was Nyesom Wike. Is that a fact?
Yeah, he was backing me very well.
So he's your chum. He's your he's your political buddy, if you
Well, he was my partner
at the time.
At that time.
Right. So does that give you a sense of how allegedly meddlesome he can be, given what is going on in Rivers State today, and how difficult things might be for Governor Fubara? Because if you had been successful in your attempt to win the presidential ticket, you actually did very well. You came second to Atiku Abubakar.
Yeah.
But if you had been successful, might he have made the same kind of overbearing demands he's reported to be making of Governor Fubara?
Well, let me say this.
In order to sustain his support.
Let me say this possibly for the first time to the public. When I ran the primaries of 2019, I and Governor Nyesom Wike had not had any pact of he being my running mate. Because it has been
Yes, it's been said that he wanted to be your vice presidential
not at all.
Candidate.
He never requested that. I must be fair to him. And he never gave me that condition. Or this is what he must take in government, or this is what he must have. So if maybe he's had that with Fubara.
So what was his condition for supporting? I mean, there must have been a reason for supporting.
The reason is that he identified me as someone young and then someone who can do the job. I believe it was about my capacity,
right?
Not about any opportunism of him coming to manipulate the government if and when we want.
So you're saying publicly and unequivocally that there were no demands from him?
No.
Right. Okay. Well, let's leave it at that. Let's turn to the party that you are transitioning into. I like that term. You're the one who came up with it.
Yes.
Which is the ADC coalition.
Yes.
Ayo Fayose, the former governor of Ekiti State, has said emphatically that in his assessment, if the ADC does not field Peter Obi as its presidential candidate in 2027, then the party will be stuck with what he called spent forces and wouldn't stand a chance. What's your reaction to that? I mean, you've got a leg and a half in the ADC at the moment.
Well, Charles, you are right by saying that I have been part of the coalition, and there is a possibility of transitioning to ADC. I'm consulting our stakeholders in Sokoto and other stakeholders across the country for us to conclude on that. However, I have said on a program aired by Arise that I don't join issues with Ayo Fayose. Before. I said so before. I still stand on what I've said.
Well, it's not about him. It's about the point he's making.
Then rephrase your question and ask me.
Well, let me put it this way then. If the ADC does not field Peter Obi as its presidential candidate in 2027, do you agree with those who say the party will be stuck with spent forces and wouldn't stand a chance?
Well, I don't agree with that. I believe that the leadership of the ADC, from the very foundation, from what we've been discussing, one, we agree that we must have very clear, transparent primary election. And if we have it, whoever emerges all of us in the coalition will support that candidate. Either Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, Rotimi Amechi,
or even yourself.
Well,
I'm
talking about those who have clearly indicated interest in running.
And of those people, is there anyone that you particularly support?
Well, when we get to that bridge,
well, we are at that bridge.
We are not there yet.
The bridge is this interview.
No. It's not this interview.
Right. Okay.
I have been playing a major role in the coalition.
Right.
So it will be too insensitive for me.
I understand
to come out right now and say I'm supporting this or that or that.
I understand.
Yes.
But let me put it another way, because we talked about your political role as a rebel with a cause. And that's over the issue of zoning, which came up repeatedly during your time in the House of Representatives, and you consistently defeated that. How clear-eyed are you about the risks that the issue of zoning poses to the ADC, with the main contenders for the 2027 presidential ticket coming from the north and the south?
Charles, this issue of zoning is something that is having a lot of faces. And it depends on where your standpoint, where you are looking at it. If you are looking at power shift from north to south, you calculate the years that the south has had presidency from 1999, when the zoning actually started, to where we are today. If you are one of those who are saying that the north should have it, your argument would be that the south has been more in power.
Yeah, which one is your argument then?
Hold on. I want us to have the best. Me. Wherever he's going to come from.
Yeah, but you have to agree, and I don't know, I mean, you've got...
From my trajectory, Charles, is clear that I have never been a product of zoning.
I know, but what I'm saying is that...
From being minority leader to being Speaker of the House. So I believe that Nigeria should have the best.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that...
If someone's mother is gasping and in a critical condition, and you are rushing her to the hospital, are you going to ask for a physician from your local tribe? Or you are going to ask for the best hand that can save your mother?
I understand that point, but I mean...
So that's the situation of Nigeria today.
Yeah, but you have very sharp instincts as a politician. And I wonder if you are at least a little bit afraid about that and what it could mean for the ADC and the direction it might be forced to head in.
By the grace of God, I believe that any candidate that the ADC comes up with in 2027 will defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
But it could cause divisions within the ADC.
We are managing, our differences, Charles, and we are having Nigeria and Nigeria's interest at heart. Rest assured that the leadership of ADC under David Mark is having this country and its interest at heart.
Well, let me look at it from another angle. Many Nigerians believe that the same political class keeps recycling itself. What do you say to them?
Yes, there is that factor you cannot remove. I have always been urging people of good character, with capacity and content to join politics. We must not leave it to those that are otherwise. Anybody that wants to come into the is invited. I believe in quality, I believe in content, I believe in character and capacity.
And are you yourself still seeking higher office, or is your focus now on shaping power behind the scenes, a kind of kingmaker of sorts?
Not kingmaker. I am playing that role of ensuring that we galvanize and bring out the best for Nigeria.
Right.
My focus is on that.
Not on yourself.
Not anything personal.
Right.
Not anything personal.
Because I mean, you've tried to run for president.
These people are. I like. Oh, wow. Anyway, the obedience. Well, I like them, Sha. Even though no be, so they'll go. So I think they have that lockdown because the only way Tinubu can win is if two of them compete separately. I said, and that's what is going to happen. It's obvious from what Tambawa is saying.
President,
yes, I did.
Do you still have that ambition?
Ambition is ambition. but what I am doing now is bringing people together, talk together.
But you don't have any desire to compete for the presidency in 2027?
I don't have that desire.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears slightly. You are the former governor of Sokoto State. What do you make of Donald Trump's muscle flexing in Nigeria in general, and specifically his attack on your state, Sokoto?
Well, it was very concerning and very worrisome when we woke up to hear that missiles were dropped in part of my constituency, and of course Tangaza in the other constituency and part of Sokoto State. Of course, we are aware that Donald Trump is taking too much interest in Nigeria, but we were not expecting that the first part of the country and state was going to hit was Sokoto. Because, frankly speaking, and any leader what's happening in Nigeria knows that you don't have that main security challenge as you have in some parts of the country, in Sokoto. Yes, as governor, I knew that the Lakurawas were there, even during my own term, and we pursued them and chased them back and pushed them back. But the security situation in Sokoto.
You didn't think there was justification?
Yes, I don't see that justification.
But then, according to the Washington Post, which has done a thorough sort of investigation into what happened, both America and Nigeria side, they said that it was the Nigerian government supplied the intelligence to the Americans and told them where to go and attack.
And incidentally, I'm not even a member of any security committee in the National Assembly in the Senate, so I don't have that information.
But you disagree with that decision?
Even if that is the information given by the Nigerian government, it must have been a very, very incorrect security information. Because, okay, what's happening in Borno? What's happening in Zamfara? Katsina, even Niger of recent, Benue, Plateau.
Well, it's all about intelligence.
If it's about intelligence,
and where your attack would have the greatest chance of being successful
they should come out. The National Security Advisor or anybody in government should come and tell us and give us the impact of that attack. What was the impact?
True. That's an important thing that many Nigerians are waiting for.
You people, the media, should take up our government on that, because the government
has been
very, very. How do I describe it?
Cagey.
Not cagey, but they have not been able to come out, even with a clear statement.
Yeah.
As to what is their position.
Well, we can't put a gun to their heads.
I'm not talking about guns. I'm talking about engaging them and taking them.
Yeah, we've been doing that. But let me move on from that, because there's been talk, and you are a member of the opposition, which is why I'm asking you this question. There's been talk that a hawkish American political and diplomatic intervention in the 2027 election by way of pressure on this government to hold a free and fair ballot, and some people in the opposition have said that, is the only way that such a clean election can be guaranteed, and that without it, the 2027 ballot will potentially be rigged. That's coming from a lot of your colleagues.
It's not the only way. It's not the only way. It's one of those ways. Because from even our recent history, the intervention of international community shaped the election of 2015, which the APC benefited from. So I expect similar intervention from international community. I'm not particular about the United States. I'm talking about democratic countries and international community now making sure, because they do it without direct interference,
right,
that the elections are free, credible, and fair.
And what is happening in that local government area, I think it's called Isao, something in Sokoto State, where villagers are said to be moving to the local government headquarters for fear of bandits attacking them in Sokoto State?
Yeah, it's been happening randomly, not only in Isa, in Sabonbirni, in Goronyo, even in my senatorial district in Shagari. We have had similar situation where most villages in Shagari local government left their villages and settled in Shagari township itself. And of course, it's been happening in Kebe, and in Dangishuni, in Torita, in my own senatorial district. So it's correct that that we have that situation in Isa, and a number of local governments, including Raba in Awurlo, in the eastern flank of the state. That information is correct.
So does that justify the attack, though?
The attack was not on Isa.
Right.
The attack was on Tangaza and Tambuwal. The most troubled part of Sokoto is Eastern Sokoto, Eastern Central District, which comprising Isa, Sabonbirni, Gada, Goronyo, Elela, Gwadaba, Wurno, and Raba. Up till today, these areas are the most troubled areas in the state. But the attack was not there. The attack was in Tangaza. Even though yes, Tangaza is having some security challenges. As I said, the history of this Lakrawas is that they come through Niger Republic, through that area, through Gada, the Gudu, Tangaza. But in terms of real security threat,
right,
and challenges, you have more in Isa.
Right. And just briefly, because we're coming towards the end of the interview, and I thank you very much indeed for your patience and the clarity of your thoughts. Do you welcome that American big stick in Nigeria as a way of bringing the ruling party to heel? Because so many Nigerians said after that attack, the government started sort of, apparently doing things the way they felt that they ought to do things. Do you think that coming from a party that has been critical of the governance style in this country, that big stick from the Americans helped to shape things in a better direction?
Well, I think that intervention, first the statements from President Trump and the subsequent missile attack had some effect on the government of the day. They now had to maybe sit down and say, look, what's happening? And then you could see that, yes, there is some positive impact of all of that on the way the administration is now thinking.
So in that regard, would you like to see more of that from?
I would not want to see more of attacks.
Right. But you'd like to see diplomatic and political intervention.
And then let us have a clearer and well-defined framework between Nigerian government and the U.S. government for this engagement. And I am in the National Assembly. I'm a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These issues were not tabled before us. If you ask us today, we don't know how it came about. And I believe that at this level, we should know certain things. So the framework should be clearer. If there's any agreement between the Nigerian military and the U.S. military, or the Nigerian government and the U.S. government, it should be clear, well defined. And then as I said before, it shouldn't just be the United States of America. Every other country that is willing to help Nigeria resolve what we are facing now as security challenge, I welcome the idea.
Right. And just very briefly, because you were telling us quite comprehensively about what is happening in local governments in Sokoto State where villagers were moving away from and so on. We've heard of this bandit kingpin called Turji or
Turji.
something. Yeah, Turji. I mean, why can't he be captured?
Charles, I am not the commander-in-chief.
I didn't think you were. but,
I am
but
not.
you're a man with an ear to the ground.
I
aren't you?
am not the national security advisor. But I believe that Bello Turji can be captured. I believe so.
If you were governor now, as you were then,
Governor cannot capture Bello Turji because you can't even commandeer the CP.
indeed, but you can certainly have discussions with the government.
No,
where you give them
while there, we have had
suggestions.
discussions with the government, even under President Muhammadu Buhari, and we advise the president, as governors of the Northwest, including Niger and Plateau, on the way to go about simultaneous military operation in those areas affected. It was never done. So it's not as if, as a governor, there's much that you can do. You can only advise the president, give them information.
And what would you advise them about that today, about this Turji?
My advice is that we should not negotiate with the bandit from a weak position.
Right.
We should go after them, subdue them, and then come to the table.
Right.
But as where we are today, I don't support any such negotiations.
Right. Okay. We're almost out of time, and I appreciate the time you've taken to talk to us. If history judges your political career, what would you like it to say, and what are you afraid it might say?
What I would like history to say is that in my political sojourn, I've been selfless. I have impacted on human capital development of my people, the people I have been representing, and shaping the youth and people of my constituency towards a better future and better direction. My fear is for me to be judged otherwise.
Well, I hope that history will judge you honestly and kindly.
Thank you, Charles.
And I want to thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come to talk to us. And I want to congratulate you again on your 60th birthday. I think many Nigerians are impressed that at the age of 60, you've achieved what you've achieved. You become Speaker of the House, you've become a governor of a state, you've become a senator, and not to talk of the things that you were before you became those things, in addition to being a lawyer. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.
And happy birthday.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
If somebody with a member of the Senate on security has no clue of the kind of agreements the country that they are ably representing, as one of the inner caucus member, none of the kind of security agreement we've reached or the security intelligence we gave to Pentagon before they construct the security in Sokoto, there's more trouble than that we should expect. Tinubu is in deep shit. It's in deep shit. Now globalist put out for power. Now the nationalists are saying, yo, nigga, you gotta do something, man. Won't fuck around like that. Gotta do something about this shit, or you gone. Whatever that shit is. But sooner or later, we're gonna find out. We gonna find out what's going on. The guy no one come. Everybody we don't go holiday. Even those we overwork self are back. Also, even those that killed it, that make billions, are back to office, man. Your president ain't nowhere to be found, bro. Your president ain't nowhere to be found. And y'all are cool with it. Y'all are cool with that shit. All right. If you are cool, I'm cool too. Shit. Let's hear from. I got that.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on this beat.
Yeah.
Houston's not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Monday, 12 January, year of our Lord 2026. In Fort Pierce grand jury impaneled today, George Papadopoulos is with us. L. Todd Woods and Dr. Thayer are going to join us in a moment for the geopolitics all and the national security and the industrial might of the United States of America. So, George, just explain, is this going to just cover the run-up to the 2016 election and what they tried to do to steal it? Or is this going to also include, you believe, the first term, where having not stopped us and allowing Clinton to get in and be Obama's third term, but if Clinton had gotten in, and remember, Merrick Garland had already been nominated for the Supreme Court, and she wanted to put somebody even more radical than Merrick Garland. The reason they didn't fight so hard for Merrick Garland is he was too moderate. They would have controlled the Supreme Court, they would control the Senate, the House, and they would controlled the executive branch. Game over, United States of America. So are we just going to do the run up to 16 where you got rolled up, or we're actually going to do the first term of the administration, sir?
Steve, there was always this big question about statute of limitations and how that might preclude the DOJ for pursuing these various charges, because some people thought that the so-called time clock expired. But what the DOJ has done here is, by looking at the Democrat Party as a whole, as a criminal organization, in parallel to how the mafia was viewed during the time of Mayor Giuliani in New York, it allowed them to extend the time clock by looking at the Democrat Party as some sort of criminal entity that has been basically waging lawfare and engaging in criminal activities for at least 10 years, going back to 2015 up through Joe Biden. So this is not simply about Donald Trump's first term and things that happened to myself and others. This goes into the 2020 election, impeachment 1.0, 2.0, all of the shenanigans during the lawfare effort against candidate Trump this past election, and how he valiantly fought back against all of that. This is why this is the most important and significant investigation in modern American history, and it's being conducted with the right people at the right time.
George, where do people, your Twitter feed, you're putting up stuff all the time because you're following this very closely, and we want to make sure that we have you on every couple of days for an update. And I know you've got great stuff going up in Gateway Pundit, but where can people follow you? You're absolutely correct. This is the single, Watergate looks like the third-rate burglary it was. And as we keep saying, their trial run on lawfare was with Sirica and these guys to take Nixon out. And now they've really perfected it. The deep state perfected it. That's what's going to be on trial here. This grand jury and what's going on is the most important investigation in the history of the country. So how do people stay on top of this following you, sir?
I really appreciate that, Steve. You can follow me on X at GeorgePapa19.
George, you're a patriot and a hero. Thank you for joining us on War Room this morning. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Steve. Thanks so much.
So it started down in Florida. We're going to be on that, obviously, wall to wall. There are other things happening too, but that is one that's got to be main battery. Got to be on top of that. I got Dr. Thayer here for the geopolitics and Todd Woods here for kind of the mechanics. Todd, let me start with you. You actually went with Pete Hegseth. And if people think that Pete Hegseth just running around doing push-ups and looking great in suits and coming in for great, press conference and bits, I mean, let's be blunt. He's been Secretary of War of two of the most complicated expeditionary events in American military history. The strike that ended the 12-day war, and then the situation with Maduro, of the extraction of Maduro. Those are enormously, having been a small bit in a wheel as a junior officer back in 79 and 80 for the workup that was the catastrophe at Desert One. I can tell you, well, the military's changed radically, but just the leadership to make sure things happen is extraordinary. You were actually selected, Todd, given your knowledge. You were a special Air Force Special Forces helicopter pilot, Air Force Academy grad. Know a lot about the industrial process. You were selected to go on this trip last week. What did you find, sir?
Steve, I was shocked in a very positive way. I sat down with executives from, I think, 3 or 4 companies, very innovative. At the Academy, we were taught about Lockheed Skunk Works back in the middle of the 20th century, where they developed jets to counter the Nazis in 140 days out in the desert, living in trailers. That's what they're doing here at one company, Cathedral, who is developing the new Blackbeard cruise missile. They put guys out in the desert for months in trailers, and they test, iterate, and with no bureaucracy, with all the funding they need. And what you're seeing is just an explosion of innovation with American talent. These are all Americans, and with American parts. There's no China involved in this at all. They did say they have some allies delivering parts, but just fascinating. The 3D printing, the iterative process, the manufacturing plants, the technology that's going on. I can't go into all of it, but just an impressive group of people. And one thing, in this area of Los Angeles, there had been, I was told, kind of a cultural, you would look down upon anybody working in the defense sector because Google was cool and all that. Well, that has changed, and now it's cool. You've got SpaceX coming in there. You've got Rocket Lab, Castilian, Divergent, just really interesting companies. And Divergent came from developing hypercars at $2.5 million a piece, 3D printing, and now they're moving all this into developing cruise missiles. So at scale, and they're talking, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Currently, one of the cruise missiles they're looking at, if you bought it off the shelf today, is around $4 million. They're developing these between 300 and 400,000 a copy at scale, thousands, new factories being built everywhere. It's really blew me away, Steve, to be blunt.
Yeah, Kevin Zinger, actually hired Kevin at Goldman Sachs years ago in the M&A department. He's a buddy for a long time. We've had him on the show with the cruise missile. It's amazing what Divergent's doing. Show how that, because America first, remember, we're non-interventionists, but we want to make sure we have hemispheric defense and America's safe. Of course, a big part of that is getting rid of the 15 to 20 million illegal aliens that are here, that they're fighting us on in Minneapolis. But how has this manifested itself? You were a special forces guy. I know you were a helicopter pilot. My kid brother was a Lamps pilot on a frigate. And that's, you guys do some of the most dangerous flying in the world. How did all this advances in technology manifest itself both in the end of the 12-day war and at the extraction of Maduro? Because there were things happen there, as I've drilled down and talked to people, that are mind-blowing about the scale of what the U.S. forces come in with now, sir.
Well, I had a chance to ask those questions directly, and I can't say specifically what I was told, but let's just say it was a multi-pronged effort. And there's information out now that the shooters on the ground had advanced technology, comms and analysis systems, kind of a heads-up display that we used to have in the cockpits, mounted on your helmet, so you could see. You didn't have to look down at the instruments because you're flying into an LZ that's hot, and you got to put the guys here with the tail pointed this way and the door gun pointed this way, and number 2 and 3 got to come in right behind you. So you can't really look down at your instruments. So that's all displayed on your helmet, on your visor, and that's what they're doing with the soldier level now, which is fascinating with the network connectivity and also the sonic weapons. There's press out on this that they basically took down several hundred, actually up to 1,000 soldiers that were guarding Maduro with sonic weapons that they felt like it was exploding in their brain. So, I don't know, maybe that's propaganda to try to deter people from messing with us, but all of that exists. How it was used, hopefully will come out later. And also, I'm trying to dig into, and I know something, but the guys that were shot on the helicopters, we're going to dig into that going forward as well.
Well, yeah, the two helicopter pilots, we avoided a tragedy there because of the greatness, and the audience to understand, the helicopter training you get, what Todd Woods got from the Air Force, what my kid brother got with the Navy, what these helicopter pilots are the best in the world. What they do is unbelievable, breathtaking. Hang on for a second, Todd. I want to go to Thayer. Dr. Bradley Thayer, from Greenland to the Arctic to the Panama Canal to South America, to Tehran geopolitically. And I want to state, I was not a big fan of doing what we did in Argentina. I understand why we had to do it. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, structured the bailout there, $20 billion credit facility. They drew down, I think, $2.5 billion. They've paid it all back and made a couple of $1 million in the process. So good on you, Scott. Milei, won the election. It seems to be now on steady course. So I'm a huge believer in economic warfare. The geopolitical strategy, we got a carrier battle group heading towards the North Arabian Sea. President Trump's going to get briefed tomorrow. Of course, Todd and I are both hearing that the people, Lindsey Graham and these folks are pressing President Trump to strike Tehran. I believe that if you just cut the oil off coming out of the Straits of Hormuz, headed to the CCP, that will bring the mullahs to the knees in economic warfare. Dr. Thayer, your thoughts?
Well, Steve, great to join you. And to build on Todd's remarks, I think it's both a very propitious time, but also a very dangerous time in terms of what we're facing. If we look at the situation, getting rid of Maduro, of course, had many positive impacts there. You were able to bring about a leadership change in Venezuela very effectively, as Todd described. Iran is a little bit different, of course. Targeting the oil makes a lot of sense. If they can't export their oil, which is everything for them, that hurts the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and it also hurts the regime in Tehran. So we want to keep in mind, secondly, that the CCP is really the center of gravity here, right? It's the Chinese Communist Party which is driving a lot of this in conjunction with their allies domestically in the United States, for example, right? What's happening in Minnesota is not an accident. It's the result of a long process of communists and communist front organizations working historically with the Soviet Union, more recently working with the PRC's United Front Work Department and associated groups. And then, of course, the fact that the Comintern has been privatized. It's run by George Soros now, his son Alexander, and other groups like Neville Singham, right, the People's Forum as well. So we need to recognize that the CCP is the center of gravity here. Everything that we do that weakens the CCP, whether that's oil, whether that's other economic measures. You'll have Peter on, and I'm sure Peter's going to have a lot to discuss. Dr. Peter Navarro will address this issue too. That's going to be positive, everything that we're doing, which is hurting the CCP. Because at the end of the day, in all of these measures, we need to see it through the lens of great power politics, Steve. It's whether the great power politics is zero sum. If something's helping the CCP, it's hurting us. So we need to think about every aspect of what's benefiting them and do what we can to ensure that the CCP is hurt, whether that's trade, whether that's tariffs, whether that's oil, or whether that's other tools in the toolbox that we haven't employed yet. We want the CCP to rue the day, right? They started this economic war with us in April 3rd, you'll remember, with the rare earths and the magnets, and then again in October when they tightened that. We want them to rue the day that they started these measures. We don't want to fight a war with the CCP. We want to deter a war with the CCP.
Kinetic war.
And using our
We don't want to
economic
fight
tools.
We don't want to fight it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also using our
We don't want
strengthening
a
our
kinetic
defense
war. We want-
industrial base.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on for a second. By the way, Scott Bessent's chairing, I think, a conference today on alternatives away from the CCP on rare earths over at the Treasury Department. Short commercial break. Back in the War Room in a moment.
Still America's Voice family. Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored, and it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites: Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec,
And so many more.
Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
Okay, Dr. Thayer, I know you're working on a book about all this. What's the book? It's going to come out sometime this year. And where do people go social media to follow you on all this?
Oh, well, Stephen, thanks very much for mentioning it, and thanks for contributing the forward to it. The book is looking at America's 100 Years War against communism. We've been locked in a long war that's had an international element against the Soviets and against the Chinese Communist Party, but it also has a domestic component as well, where communist groups have been operating in the U.S. to take a sledgehammer to America and to American identity. So the book will be forthcoming this year, as you mentioned, and my social media is at Brad Thayer on X and Bradley Thayer on Getter and Truth. Thanks very much, Steve.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on Friday also. You're going to have a big part of this War Room, Texas. L. Todd Woods, you're hearing, I think what I'm hearing, what are you hearing about a strike in Tehran, sir? The unclassified
I'm hearing,
version.
yeah, I'm hearing that something's going to happen. Let's just leave it at that. So that I probably a joint Israeli strike. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, not good. Boy, I'll post that, but hey, you only do what you can do. Todd, where do people go to get over to CDM to see all the coverage you've got on everything?
Put cdm.press in your daily scan. It's our main site. Everything flows into that from all over the world. We're up all night curating stories. We're not as big as others, but we do try to get out stories that you really need to know and stories you're not going to hear anywhere else. So, and I'm at real L Todd Wood on X and at CDM_press on X for the company. Thank you.
The piece on Pete Hegseth and what they're working on over there at the Pentagon and how Pete's got that thing organized and trying to get the Chinese Communist Party out of the supply chain is worth going over there. It's spectacular. So thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Who rules the United States? Does Matt check it out? Let's play a short clip. We got Steve Cortez.
Are you a bigot for wanting a border? Are you selfish for insisting that your tax dollars stay here? Here's the truth. America's ruling class doesn't care about you. Instead, they serve foreigners. Foreigners first, always, and only. Illegal migrants roam our cities. Elites borrow money in your name to fund foreign wars. Scammers run wild in our homeland while working Americans struggle. And if you object, you're the problem. Now, it's not incompetence, it's the plan. Andrew Breitbart, he saw it coming. Overwhelm the system, then swoop in with solutions that only serve the connected cabal. They manufacture the chaos so that they can then control the outcome. But we are done. We're done playing defense. America first means securing our borders, mass deportations, an end to giant scams by foreigners who shouldn't even be here, and prioritizing working families before $1 goes overseas to corrupt charlatans like Zelensky. This country belongs to its citizens, not global elites. It's last call for their pathetic soiree, and we are not asking anymore. We are taking America back.
So Cortez, I love the rhetoric. Let's talk about the reality. We got David Hoke. I know David Hoke and Nick Shirley, right? Heroically, and these guys are being under abuse by the crowd of Marxist jihadists in Minnesota, are coming out today, I believe later today, with even bigger bombshells than they've already dropped. I think people's heads are going to blow up. Right now, they're kind of at a standoff. We're surging more ICE agents into Minneapolis, but the mass deportations in New York City, I mean, Mondami's kind of called our bluff in Chicago and Minneapolis. You got to get to mass deportation. They're 15 to 20 million, and just not bad hombres. Everybody here broke the law, and they all got to go. And at the same time, you heard Earl Todd Woods is what I've been hearing and working against all weekend. We got a carrier battle group heading toward the North Arabian Sea where I used to be. And let me tell you, if it would stop the oil from coming out of the Straits of Hormuz like we stopped off Venezuela, the world would be in a great place, because the economic warfare would bring the regime in Tehran to its knees. But Lady G, and if you saw the cold open, Lady G's been working the president all weekend. They're going to meet tomorrow. But Todd Wood's hearing the same thing I'm hearing, that they're working on maybe a joint strike with the Israelis. So with your magnificent rhetoric there, what's the reality, sir?
Well, the reality is that our problems are not overseas primarily. They're right here at home. But unfortunately, the American left, the ruling class in this country, aligned with radical leftists like Mondani, like Antifa, they prioritize foreigners always. And they do it both here on our soil as well as overseas, as you're just describing there. And the events of this new year, I think, bring clarity to this prioritization of foreigners, meaning if we look at the anti-ICE violence that is taking place across the country, but most intensely right now in Minnesota, if we look at these migrant scams that have been perpetrated at a scale that's almost hard to believe within our country, and then if we look at the amount of aid and attention that we are focusing on overseas wars that have nothing to do with the United States, not in our national interest, particularly the Black Sea, ancient ethnic regional conflict that is ongoing there. The common theme, the through line, and you do such a good job of this on War Room, Steve, connecting the dots between events that may not on their face seem to be interconnected, but they're inextricably linked. The through line is prioritizing foreigners always. That is what the ruling class in this country does. Now, thankfully, our movement stands up against that. And it's not just the right thing to do to prioritize American citizens. It's also politically expedient and very, very popular. I've been polling for months and months, for example, whether or not the United States should disengage from Ukraine if those two parties cannot reach a peaceful resolution, given the fact that Donald Trump, thankfully, has brokered, finally, peace dialogue there. And if they cannot, only a tiny minority of America wants to stay engaged. My latest poll, for example, of Gen Z, 18 to 25-year-olds, only 23% say that we should stay engaged in Ukraine. So our main battles are not in Tehran, they're not in Kiev, they are right here at home. They are in Minnesota. They're all over this country. And I want to try to awaken folks into this new year that we must prioritize our citizens.
It's Minneapolis. This is why we're launching War Room Texas today about the Islamic invasion and stopping Sharia law in Texas, because New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, Portland, and Seattle, I mean, you go across 5 of the biggest cities in the north, they haven't fallen like Paris. They haven't fallen like London, which I tell people in Paris and London all the time. I just gave a huge interview on French TV the other night in prime time, and I said, in Paris, the Fifth Republic's going to fall. And the only way you're going to take Paris back, you're going to have a bloody civil war. Full stop.
Yeah.
The French have got to accept that. That's what's going to happen. Now, the problem is just not Minneapolis, it's on Capitol Hill. H-1B visas and all these legal migration things immigration are all a scam. Chip Roy's come out with it. We've supported a hard 10-year moratorium, no immigration for a decade to sort this mess out, and the ending of the H-1B visa scam. Is that also a priority that if we don't do that, plus drive out the 15 to 20 million illegal alien invaders that came here kind of on the low scale end, you're not going to have a country. Working class Hispanics, and that we just won in the Rio Grande Valley, working class blacks are going to sit there and go, well, what did you guys really end up doing for us, sir?
Right. Listen, you're exactly correct, Steve, because the betrayal of sovereignty, the betrayal of prioritizing our own neighbors, our own American citizens, it has been bipartisan. So let me take it from the theoretical to an action item list that I hope will be pursued aggressively, both by the Trump administration as well as by our movement, by grassroots citizens in this country. Number one, Ilhan Omar. Let's get to action items, 3 of them. Ilhan Omar, she needs to be arrested. She needs to be deported. It is certain that she committed immigration fraud in becoming an American citizen. She doesn't belong in the U.S. Congress. She doesn't belong in the U.S., period. Arrest and deport her. Tim Walz certainly committed crimes. It becomes increasingly apparent that he committed crimes, that he wasn't just tolerating the abuse of the law and scams on a massive scale, but actually incentivizing and participating in them. So it's good that he's not running again. That's the first scalp for America First, but he needs to resign. And more than that, he needs to be indicted. He needs to face criminal charges. And then on the Republican side of the aisle, Tom Emmer, third in charge of the House on the GOP side, congressman from Minnesota, who's talking really tough these days. Suddenly he's found religion on immigration, but guess what? For a decade, he has been constantly and everywhere welcoming and encouraging more and more third world migration, particularly from Somalia, the former chair of the Somalia caucus. There is one, believe it or not, on Capitol Hill, a Republican chairing it from Minnesota, bragging about it constantly, now trying to act tough on these issues. He needs to be politically relegated. I'd prefer that he get beaten, of course, at the ballot box, but if that doesn't happen, he cannot be in leadership. He cannot have a position of influence within our party, certainly not within our movement. So I think those 3 action items, Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz, Tom Emmer, if we see those 3 things happening in the next few weeks and months, now we're talking. And that gives us the right and the platform into November to make the case to the American people that Republicans deserve leadership. They deserve the speaker's gavel in the House of Representatives because they're protecting you against a foreign invasion.
Steve, hang on for a second. Dr. Peter Navarro is going to join the conversation from the White House. It's going to take a short commercial break. War Room Texas premieres tonight at 6 p.m. Make sure you're there to watch it. You're going to love this. As we focus on the great state of Texas, the jewel of the crown of the American Union. Short break.
Nothing to tell now. Let the words be yours. I have done with mine.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I want to thank the Patriot Mobile guys. 972 Patriot. Talk to a hill, as the company describes it, a hillbilly with an East Texas accent, an American citizen, to find out about all the special offers the Patriot Mobile have. But most importantly, they back your play. They're Christian conservative company that really helped put on that great event we had on Friday all day in Texas. And there'll be Glenn, I'll get Glenn's story up tonight on the launch of War Room Texas that'll drive us toward the 3 March primary to take ban Sharia law from the state of Texas. Hopefully start that process of banning from the United States of America. Ask the people in Tehran today how that worked out for them. Ask them. Dr. Peter Navarro joins us from the White House. There's so much going on, Peter. You've got editorials, op-eds, everything. You guys are on a roll right now. The floor is yours, Dr. Navarro. What do you got for us?
Yeah, let me run through the MAGA checklist. I got 4 good things for you, Steve. Let's start with housing affordability. This is a very big deal. It was a crisis that was in many ways sparked by 20 million illegal aliens coming in during the Biden years. Every 1 million illegals pushed up rents 1%. So that's 20% hike nationwide, and most of it was hit in big urban areas like in New York and Chicago. So we've got to attack that. So we got 3 things going here. The first is these mortgage-backed securities. You can channel your old Goldman Sachs days. It's basically the feds are going to buy $200 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities. That should lower mortgage rates by 1/4 to 1/2 point. That's significant. We're banning large institutional investors. Think the bad guys like BlackRock, the hedge funds and all that, from coming in and buying single-family homes. which, the studies there show that rents and housing prices skyrocket when they do that. So we're going to get to that. And then the boss is also floating the idea with Treasury Secretary Besson, who you had on a couple of days ago, was just amazing, of no penalties for retirement account withdrawals if you want to use them as a down payment. So that's all good. Second thing is, the jobs report came out last week, 50,000 jobs, okay? And the analyst said it was weak, and the left jumped all over it, said we're not creating jobs. Here's the middle. Back in the day, when we had illegals coming into our country, our economy was basically built to create jobs for illegal aliens. In fact, you know the data, Steve. It's like we were like hiring millions of illegals, even as we were putting American citizens kicking them to the curb. Going forward, the steady state to keep the unemployment rate low is more like 50,000 jobs a month rather than 200,000. And we have to adjust our thinking when we analyze that and not fall the Democrats' trap saying we're a slow growth presidency, because that's it. All right, third thing, Venezuelan crude. It's like, what's going on there? We're buying oil from Venezuela. We got a bunch of frackers. We're energy. Okay, so here's the story behind there. All crude is not created equal. All refineries are bespoke or customized refineries. So much of our refinery capacity, and we haven't built new ones in like decades, was targeted to refine heavy oil. When fracking came along, that's light oil, so we're running our refinery inefficiently. So to the extent that we can get Venezuelan heavy crude in to mix in with our refineries, particularly in the Gulf Coast areas, we're going to be able to significantly lower the price of gasoline and diesel for the American people. And number 4 on the list, which is interesting, is this whole capping of credit card interest at 10%. I was on with Maria Bartiromo this morning and joked, but it's true. I mean, the mafia can't charge as high as interest rates as the credit cards get away with. I mean, it's obscene. It's upwards of 30%. And the bankers are complaining about this, about that. But the problem is, Steve, they do no due diligence. They hand out credit cards like they're cotton candy, and then they charge everybody else for the inevitable fraud that happens. So the boss, President Donald John Trump, is hitting on all cylinders, trying to reduce the costs of living for Americans, even as he's trying to increase wages. And that's a report to Megaland and the great Steve Bannon.
Dr. Navarro, before we let you go, I know you're working on a bunch of things. Can you just give us a quick heads up, a couple minutes on things that we should look at coming out of your shop? We understand that the Supreme Court may rule this week on tariffs. The central biggest thing that President Trump's done, besides economically, the massive supply side tax cut, was Liberation Day and the changing of the world's commercial relationships. What do you got for us there, sir?
Well, look, in terms of, you asked me what's coming up, we're looking very, very carefully at this whole problem of AI data centers driving up the costs of electricity for Americans at the same time that they threaten the integrity of the grid. And you can expect some strong action from President Trump on this. He has the back of American ratepayers, both at the consumer level on businesses. So keep your eye on that. It's amazing in a bad way how much electricity is projected for the AI folks to use. And by the way, and this galls me, a significant amount of the electricity these AI centers are using now is servicing like Chat GPT users in places like India and China, which is we got to wrap our heads around that. So I think that's going to be an important one. Keep your eyes also on the critical mineral rare earth space. We're seeing tremendous innovation in that space here in America in the wake of the weaponization of that set of materials from the Chinese. So we'll be talking over the coming months how that's unfolding. But you keep doing what you're doing, brother, and we love the War Room.
Well, we look forward to what the Supreme Court says. What you and Jameson Greer and Scott Besson have done in support of the president's magnificent architecture on trade and commercial relationships is nothing short of historic. And you can already see the benefits, what exports up 30%, imports down 30%, trade deficit tightening, something you and I and others have worked on for many, many years. Dr. Navarro, where do people go to keep up with you on social media, particularly all your hits you're doing in media?
Yeah, I did carry that lead, by the way. Low trade deficit, best gain since 2009. And remember, Steve, that when the trade deficit falls, that gives us higher growth because we got more jobs and factories and all that stuff. PeterNavarro.com is the one-stop shop. That'll get you to all the social media. We're doing a lot of 60-second videos that we're putting out on X and Getter and True Social that really are capturing these thoughts about individual issues, whether it's the ban on institutional investors or mortgage-backed securities or whatever. And there's my Substack, of course, Peter Navarro Substack, and that's a good place to get your comments into me.
I repost those videos because that reminds me of the Peter Navarro I know and love up close and personal because they actually see your personality. I put them up on Getter all the time, so keep them coming. They're fantastic. Dr. Navarro, thank you for taking time away today. I know you guys are busy at the White House. Thank you, sir.
All right, my brother. You take care. My regards to Cameron.
Thank you, sir. That's the producer that kept Navarro in check. So Steve Cortez, coming off of your video, that's a pretty good punch list of populist nationalist economic policies President Trump's forcing through the system, sir.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely. And, as usual, Dr. Navarro is correct there because tightening immigration controls, right, stopping the illegals, phasing out the worker visas, it's not just the right policy for this country, for our national security, for our social cohesion. It's also it's an economic imperative. For example, illegals have been competing unlawfully, unjustly in the labor market against American workers for decades. Now we see under President Trump rising real wages, I believe largely because 2.5 million people have already left between those who have self-deported and those who were forced, who were arrested and punted out of this country. We've got to keep that going and accelerate that number. But Dr. Navarro is exactly correct when he talks about housing. The demand for housing, there's such an artificial demand by tens of millions of foreigners who don't belong here in the first place, the illegals. On top of that, far too many, millions and millions who are here legally, but we don't need to be in this country. I would also add to that list healthcare. When you look at healthcare, I think a lot of Americans don't realize how many millions of illegals, how many millions of foreigners are getting taxpayer-funded healthcare in this country. So if you're upset, understandably, about your insurance premiums going up in a very big way in this new year, realize that a big part of that cost is for foreigners.
Steve, 86, I just saw a report over the weekend, 86% of the Somalians are on Medicaid in Minnesota. It's outrageous what they've allowed to happen and destroy this for American citizens, correct?
Yeah. Correct. And think of how much easier, we've got a lot of fiscal challenges in this country, right? Because of decades of profligacy. But think of how much easier it would be to tackle those challenges if, number one, we had a more productive, higher earning workforce here, paying more taxes into the U.S. Treasury. But number two, most importantly, if we vastly brought down the expense side of the ledger, especially on healthcare, because we're no longer paying for illegals who don't belong here in the first place, but on top of it are literally costing us billions and billions and over years, trillions of dollars in healthcare. And you're exactly right. CIS has done such good work in that Somali community. Steve, what's even worse, it's not just what they cost us initially, it's that even after being here for 10 years, 4 out of 5 of them are still on public assistance, are still getting welfare after being in the United States for a decade. So not only is it unjust to the American people, we cannot afford it. We can't afford this lunacy any longer. Thankfully, the economy is getting better, but that process will accelerate. It will accelerate dramatically as we accelerate deportations and make the incentives such that people self-deport.
Where do they go to get your Cortez Investigates, all these videos you're doing? And also I want them to go to the Substack because this piece you've got today is great. So where do folks go?
Thank you. Yes, please go to CortezInvestigates.com, Cortez with an S at the end. This is my newest article about the ruling class prioritizing foreigners, but everything's on there, the documentaries, the videos, the chalk talks, all of it, CortezInvestigates.com. On Twitter, I'm at CortezSteve. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve. I want to thank Dr. Navarro for breaking away, too. Besant is chairing this rare earths, I think, conference today to get to the bottom of all that. HomeTitleLock.com. They got especially 14 days free that you can check out their $1 million triple lock protection. Your home is not just your castle, it's every dream you've ever had. Most importantly, it's 80 or 90% of your net worth if you're an American citizen. If you're lucky enough to own a home, particularly young people, got of owning a home. Can't have first-time home buyers be 40 years old. That's ridiculous. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Steve. Talk to Natalie Dominguez and the team. You got a 14-day free trial on checking out the $1 million triple lock protection. Don't let every dream you ever had in that home turn into your biggest nightmare. Don't let it die. Short commercial break. Bob Weir takes us out. Back in the War Minute moment.
Islamic jihadis are plotting against you.
Why in the hell you think they're in Houston and in north of Dallas?
They are working together to overthrow Western civilization.
Which are areas governed just rules.
We know who you are, we know what you are, and we know what you're trying to accomplish, and it is not going to happen in the jewel of the crown of the union of this republic.
We purge any attempt to impose Sharia law in Texas.
They are not coming, they are already here.
You are not here properly, and you're going to leave. On the 3rd of March, Sharia law goes on the ballot in the state of Texas.
The United States Constitution and Sharia are at odds with one another.
We're going to tell them, take your Sharia law and shove it.
Islam will never dominate the United States, and by the grace of God, it will not dominate Texas.
As Texas goes, so goes the nation. As the nation goes, so goes the world. Are you fight for this state? Are you prepared to fight for your country?
War Room Texas, where your host, Stephen K. Bannon, starts right now.
Well, technically, it's going to start at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. That's our opening for it, and you're going to want to see this Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, 3 days a week as we start off leading up to the 3 March primary, and we may expand it out to 5 days a week. I'm going to shift the flag down to Texas in February. From there, we are maniacally on this. So stay tuned today. Join us for our first episode. It'll be tonight. Second episode tomorrow night. We're going to explain it all to you. Make sure you understand exactly what's going on with this invasion down in Texas and what it means by Sharia law. Want to know how Sharia law is turning out? Look at the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Persian people right now in the streets, and I think thousands of them are dead, but that's what it's going to take to throw these guys out. Not sure it's just going to take an air raid. They need to own it. They brought it upon themselves. They need to own it and taking it down. And right now you're seeing what happens when Sharia law runs a country, particularly a great civilization like the Persians. Mike Lindell joins us. Mike, we've had a long and productive session this morning, a couple of hours, covered everything. Right now, people want to know about deals. They love what they heard from you on Friday and Saturday. What do you got for us today, sir?
Well, you guys, we started on Saturday. It's our biggest bed sale
in history, and it's just exclusive for the War Room Posse. Our mattress toppers, we have 3 different kinds of mattress toppers. The one they're as low as $99.98. You can get queen size one for $99.98. I think king best is $179.98. But you guys, they have thousands of pressure point individual comfort supports to help your pressure points when you sleep. They go right on top of your bed.
Overnight, the Justice Department launching a criminal investigation into the Federal Reserve and its chair, Jerome Powell. Prosecutors are focused on his June testimony before Congress about the renovation. The spokesperson for the department told CNN the Attorney General wants to prioritize investigating any abuse of taxpayer dollars. But Powell says it's not about that at all. In a really, truly extraordinary video release overnight, he said this is the Trump administration's pressure campaign.
The threat is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
The civilian death toll from growing protests there has climbed to nearly 500, along with roughly 50 members of the country's military. This is according to the Associated Press, citing a U.S.-based human rights organization. Demonstrations against the regime have been ongoing for weeks amid growing frustration with the country's struggling economy. In recent days, Iran's military has cracked down on protests, detaining over 10,000 people, according to the AP. President Trump has said in recent weeks he would consider intervening. If Iranian...
Tonight, we look at President Donald Trump's renewed threat to target Nigeria with airstrikes if killings of Christians continue. Tonight, we look at President Donald Trump's renewed Nigeria with airstrikes if killings of Christians continue. President Trump acknowledged that Muslims are also victims of terrorism in Nigeria, but he warned the U.S. will step up air attacks if the violence doesn't stop. This warning comes as Nigerians and U.S. forces are working together on military and intelligence operations. They've been targeting terrorists and bandit camps in the Northwest, where kidnappings and attacks on communities have surged. Joining us live from Washington, D.C., the American capital in the United States, is Lawrence Freeman, international affairs analyst, who will help us unpack what this persistent threat means for Nigeria and Nigerians. Lawrence, you're welcome.
I'm very glad to be with you.
Well, let me tell you.
Yes, we're now in the second week of the new year.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us on this program, where we'll try to look at what the renewed threats of President Donald Trump on Nigeria and what we unpack it. We talked about it was the President Trump had just issued a threat that he was going to attack the terrorist camps in Nigeria, and we thought that it was just a threat, and that he wasn't going to carry it out. But eventually, he did carry it out on Christmas Day, and last week he, more or less came back to the problem, to the issue again, and said that he was going to attack Nigeria or attack the terrorists this killings of Nigerians continues. So, what really is all about? What is this all about? Does Trump really will he attack Nigeria, or is he just making a threat?
Thank you very much. No, he's not just making a threat. But the first thing to understand is that President Trump, like many presidents, but him in particular, he has no understanding of Nigeria or Africa. So he doesn't understand any of the complexities of the security situation in Nigeria. And that he's unconcerned, really, in my view, about the future of Nigeria. This is primarily a domestic issue. He says we have to save our great white Christians, or in the case of Nigeria, Nigerian Christians around the world. And that this is being sold to his MAGA evangelical base in the United States. If you look at the history of the recent period, October 31st, he issues Nigeria as a country of concern, particular country of concern, and he reversed Biden's decision. Then on November 1st or 2nd, he said, well, he threatens military action. And people didn't know if he was going to do it or not. And then on Christmas Day, Nigerian time, he launches 16 Tomahawk missiles into a region in northwest Africa, allegedly to get the Korwa ISIS offshoot, if you will. And it was a very failed, impotent attack. I mean, 4 Tomahawk missiles didn't go off. Many were in areas not related to the target zone. And I suspect that Nigeria made some kind of agreement to hit this area rather than northeast Nigeria, where the ISIS command and ISIS high officials are operating at.
Sorry to interrupt, let's get a sense of this. Now, when the attacks came, they came without warning. I mean, without any inkling that the attacks were going to come. And when they did, he attacked. Many Nigerians felt that, the area of attack was not where they expected. And now, Nigeria, with the threat that he made earlier on, Nigeria made available, its offices, its, resources for dialogue, for discussions on, on what Trump was talking about, was making threats about. And in fact, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu led a team to the United States, met with Pete Hegseth, the defense minister, and some defense secretary, or war secretary as the case may be, and also some high-level Americans, so to discuss the issues and see what can be done. And then, of course, there were, discussions on what to do, collaborations, discussions on how, the issues America could assist Nigeria in fighting, in meeting these threats. Then, unexpectedly, on Christmas Day or on the eve of Christmas, there was this. So Nigerians were taken aback. Now, last week, President Trump has made this, renewed threat, and significantly, he admitted that yes, Muslims were also being killed, but he insisted he was going to, launch attacks on Nigeria, despite the fact that Nigeria has, made its intention to discuss with him and to find out. So why is he trying to do this again when Nigeria has agreed to be of to discuss with him and discuss with his authority, with his officials on the issue that is at stake now?
Well, there's several reasons. I mean, one thing is in the Christmas Day attack, the reporting was that the intelligence that was gathered was done in cooperation with Nigeria. So there is a level of cooperation. But the motives behind Trump's attack, in addition to the domestic issues that I discussed, is the role that Nigeria plays in Africa. I think in the last year, Nigeria was the hub of investment from China, over $20 billion. And Nigeria has become a partner in the BRICS formation. And Nigeria has a very close working relation with China. And Nigeria has oil. And it's clear from what we're seeing now in Venezuela and possibly in Iran, President Trump is very focused on having access to oil and controlling oil markets. Nigeria is one of the largest oil production fields in the world. It does supply a significant amount of oil to China. And one of Trump's initial attacks has always been against China, keeping China out of the Western Hemisphere, countering China in Africa, weakening China. And so therefore, Nigeria fits into a number of the areas where Trump would proceed. But what's clear to us is that Trump doesn't really care about Nigeria. The attack on Christmas Day was really an impotent attack. Who knows if any or how many ISIS followers were actually killed. And he doesn't care because he can brag to people that he's taking on the terrorists and he's defending Christians throughout the world. And therefore, he is dangerous because he doesn't act with reason. And therefore, he can act at any moment without concern for the consequences.
Yeah, but
without any concern for the 240 million people living in Nigeria.
But if the interest of President Trump is based mainly on oil, the oil resources that Nigeria has, why can't he sit down to a discussion with Nigerian officials on this and what should be done? After all, we've had a lot of, there are so many American companies, oil companies, exploration companies, Chevrons of this world, ExxonMobil, Wilbros, and a lot of them are in Nigeria. So why is it difficult for him to sit down and talk with Nigerian officials on how, the Americans can, get into this or at least extend what they already have on ground rather than threats to bomb Nigeria over what we believe and everybody believes is actually, a smokescreen.
I know that's what I mean by strength through
Correct.
peace.
Although one of the things that Trump likes to do is create leverage for himself.
Yeah.
So he threatens countries. He takes military actions, even though this military action on Christmas Day was relatively benign at best. It didn't accomplish anything, but he showed people he's willing to. And then he'll try to get Nigerians and other countries to kowtow to him and agree to his terms. So we're not dealing with a policy that's actually in the interest of Nigeria, and we're not dealing with a policy that's in the interest of the United States. Because if we were thinking clearly, what's in the interest of the United States? Developing Nigeria, eliminating poverty in Nigeria, providing jobs in Nigeria. That's how you eliminate terrorism. None of those are the concerns of President Trump. He wants to control the situation. He wants to counter China, and he wants to tell his base back here in the United States, I'm taking on the anti-Christians in the world, just like he's doing in South Africa. And you have to realize he has not an interest in developing the people of Nigeria, and he knows nothing about Nigeria.
So, but then this brings us to this now. People like you, friends of Nigeria like you, and there are many of them in America, and the oil lobby, where you have oil majors like Chevron, Mobil, and quite a lot of them, in fact, very many of them, and the agricultural lobby in America, because there's a lot of agricultural assistance back and forth between Nigeria and America. Why can't you guys get together and say, look, Mr. Trump, the way you're going about this thing is not how it should be done. We want you to sit down and talk with Nigerians because our interests too are involved, and we need to be able to have a meaningful discussion with Nigerians. After all, the Nigerians have offered everything you've asked for. They've sent their officials here for a discussion. Rather than talk the language of threats and bombs, why can't you sit down and have a discussion with Nigeria? After all, Nigeria is not unfriendly to America. Nigeria is friendly to America, and we are not enemies in the way other people are to America. So why can't that happen? rather than just the language of threats and bombs. After all, Nigeria does not. Nigerians love America, and people like you should be able to talk to Trump. Let's sit down to a talk with the Nigerians. We can advance our interests and advance the interests of Nigerians without having to, bomb them. After all, Nigeria has opened its, has signified its intention to talk to Trump.
Yes, Nigeria has been a long run of the United States since independence in 1960. And you may remember the warm greeting that President Kennedy gave the leaders of Nigeria when they came over to visit him in the White House a couple of years later. So yes, the relationship is there. What we're seeing with Trump is the most naked expression of might makes right. And the problem is we don't have in the Congress, Republican or Democrat, we don't have qualified leaders like we used to have in this country 100 or 200 years ago. Anyone who's willing to stand up to truly, among the Democrats and Republicans, they both cannot understand what the true self-interest of the United States is. The United States has a great self-interest in developing Africa, in developing Nigeria, in raising the standard of living of the population. And our politicians are too stupid to realize what the potential is. So even though they may object to Trump's tactics, the Democrats have no view of how to develop Africa. The Congress has no view and no concern. The concern for development is gone. And so therefore the question is manipulation, threats, military action, might makes right. These are the methods that are being used. Now, Trump is doing it more than anyone else, but there hasn't been a good policy for a long, long time towards Africa and towards Nigeria. And my view are not listened to or respected by enough people. That's the most single important thing that Nigeria needs to develop its country, because if you have people with jobs, making money, raising families, you're going to dry out the swamp of where desperate people join terrorist activity. And I don't think this last bombing attack on Christmas Day was even serious. I think it was a show to try to threaten and keep people guessing as to when he may make his next attack. But the interview he had on January 9th with the New York Times, where he threatened Nigeria again, this shows a serious mental problem and a serious problem in his whole outlook towards the rest of the world.
So, well, this brings us to the issue. Now, Nigeria is a country, of course, in need of vast development aid. And some of the issues that have helped to give rise to this terrorism and all these, insecurity in the country, as you rightly, observed, has to do with, infrastructural development, energy issues and all that, which America can help. Because
yes.
We believe that, a lot of people believe that that's the way to go, that if America can sit down to a meaningful discussion with Nigerians, with the Nigerian officials, something would come out. Language of threats, the language of we're going to bomb you, we're going to, bomb, this and that. It's not helpful, don't you think so? And that people like you should actually, make it clear to him that this is what Nigeria is not a threat to us. Nigerians have, in fact, on the contrary, Nigerians have been quite, helpful in some of the areas that America needs, and Nigerians are there, helping to make America what it is. In various sections of American life, you find Nigerians there. So why is it difficult for the friends of Nigeria like you to be able to convince Trump and say, look, we can get more out of Nigeria than what you are trying to do, and let's go this way? What's the problem really? Why is it that difficult?
Well, maybe if the Nigerian government promotes my ideas and arranges my ability to have more influence in Washington, that would help. The difference between me and everybody else, including the Democrats, is believe in the development of human beings. And I believe that to develop the creativity of human beings, we must have material, physical state of life. And therefore, I see the interest of 40 million people. And Africa is soon to be 200 million. This, to me, is a positive development for mankind, because these are more human beings who can make more interventions, creativity. So I look at developing the most important single human right, the right to the right to job, the right to housing, the right. These are the life and death issues which it stands on. Now, the question of development, the way I understand it, is not discussed in Washington. And the leaders are grossly insufficient going back many years, because they don't understand this crucial question of development of human beings. And Trump talks about the Monroe Doctrine, which was 1923 by John Quincy Adams, Secretary of State, before he became president. The doctrine was to keep the British imperialists out of the Western Hemisphere so these countries could develop with the United States, not suppress them, bomb them. And the idea of development is gone. And therefore, what Trump says is, I will make money, we will stop China, and I will appeal to my MAGA base of fighting the fight to protect Christians. And none of these conceptions of his are correct, and none of them are being challenged by anyone else. We have a bunch of cowards. We have impotent cowards right now in the U.S., and they won't even represent the positive views that the United States stands for and will be celebrating this year on its 250th anniversary. No one understands the principles of the United States the way I do. And this is the real problem the United States is facing. It's not a Nigerian problem. Nigeria has a serious security problem. Since I've been traveling to Nigeria for over 30 years, it's had a problem in security. But what the United States is doing now will not help. This is a United States problem, but we are not thinking anymore like Americans.
So let's compare and contrast what the Chinese are doing in Africa and in Nigeria and what the Americans are doing. On the one hand, the Chinese are quietly, engaging Nigerian governments, trying to, attend to development issues, road and infrastructure, a lot of things. And they're doing it quietly without any threats, any bombing. While on the other hand, the Americans who have been here, who have quite more in terms of relationship with Nigeria, with all kinds of, very massive projects and massive, then they are not, the Americans under Trump are thinking about bomb your country's diplomacy, while it's going about in a quiet way, achieving more. Why can't Americans say, hey, let's sit down. After all, we've had, a lot of, meaningful development over the years. Where did we go? Bombing us. Don't you think America should also that way? And people like you should also be able to carry that.
You have to realize, Western culture has declined. We have been dumbed down since the death of John F. Kennedy over 60 years ago. So we don't think the way Kennedy used to think, or Franklin Roosevelt used to think, or Abraham Lincoln, or John Quincy Adams. We don't think that way anymore. Our values and our vision of the world has seriously shrunk. China, on the other hand, if you look at their commitment to development in 1949, they have a different view. Have economic growth. They have accomplished economic miracle since from 1949 to 2025. They just started to get involved in Africa in a serious way 25 years ago. The United States was in Nigeria in 1960. So in a mere quarter of a century, China has had a policy of working with and developing nations because they have a different view. And in fact, the BRICS are a more viable vision of the world than the Western banking financial system has. And the global South is now more and more realizing that we need a new paradigm. The Western paradigm, we will not cause confrontation with them, but we are going to move slightly differently. You see the expansion of the Chinese currency in some of the trading going on in Africa. We could have, as President Xi says, we have a common shared interest for the future of mankind. The Western model, the rules-based order, the zero-sum game mentality, the might makes right. These old methods of ruling, and they're no viable. So what Nigeria and other countries have to do is to look towards other allies, expand the BRICS, expand their leadership in the global South, and realize that the United States is unpredictable and irrational, and therefore have to look for other alternatives to develop their country. But it would be in the self-interest of every single American, Nigerians to have a higher standard of living, for Nigeria to have a larger manufacturing sector, for Nigeria to have high-speed rail connecting the country and all of Africa. This is in the immediate self-interest of every American, and yet our leadership is too dumb to understand this. And that's a problem that the United States has. It's not a Nigerian problem.
But surely the way Trump, we see him do similar things in other parts of the world. He was in Venezuela, where recently, in fact, where he's, American forces intervened and, snatched the president and his wife. And virtually now, Venezuela is at loggerheads with America. And he's making threats against Iran. He's also, hijacked, American forces had hijacked Russian, Russian-flagged ships in the international waters. And this is scaring the whole of the world. And then, of course, the most recent threat of taking over Greenland, which has had the Europeans now in arms. Preparing to meet that threat. Now, if an American president or America that emerged as the leader of the world after the Second World War is behaving in this manner, what can countries like Nigeria do, or what do you think countries like Nigeria will feel about this? And America is no longer benign. America is malign. So really, how can we now break this and ensure that, look, we get back to the days of discussion and dialogue and development issues, not bombings and threats of bombings?
Well, the other thing that when you were discussing that comes to mind is we're actually moving in a dangerous situation. Don't forget, one of the oil tankers that was seized in the Northeast Atlantic was a Russian flag tanker. And we've seen now a continued war against Putin now for several years. And he now has used a hypersonic missile to deliver a payload in Ukraine. Now, that's a direct response to the threats against Russia. And the United States now, if it keeps promoting anti-Chinese policies, and plus I think we sold $11 billion in arms to Taiwan, we're looking at a real threat of expanded war, which could lead to nuclear war, but expanded war beyond these isolated attacks that Trump is making. So we're in a more dangerous world than we were several years ago. As to what Nigeria can do, is Nigeria has to see its future in the future of mankind. How does Nigeria, the largest populated country in the continent, with rich mineral resources and very fertile land, I know from experience, how does Nigeria play a more prominent role in leading? We have the BRICS, which has 9 or 10 members. Nigeria now is a partner of the BRICS and probably will become a member within the near future. The BRICS represent an embryo of a new dynamic, a dynamic based on development. And that BRICS leadership is part of even a larger dynamic of the global South, which represents 85% of the world population and resources. So this is the area that we have to work on. What Nigeria needs to do most immediately is we have to get electricity. That we can't have any more excuses. We can't exist on 5,000 or 7,000 megawatts of distributed electricity. This will not allow Nigeria to survive. We have to have a very committed force to say, how are we going to get another 100,000 minimum megawatts of power brought online in Nigeria? Because as your population expands to over 400 million in the next generation, if we don't have electricity, if we don't have jobs, then you're going to have a bigger problem. So Nigeria has to work with its allies around the world. For the moment, States is not going to help, and pursue what are important national goals that are part of an international development program.
If you are in a position to advise the Nigerian government on how to unravel or on how to approach this issue with Donald Trump, what would you tell the Nigerian government? How would you approach it to the benefit of Nigerian government and Nigeria itself?
I would say cooperate where you can, where it doesn't violate your national sovereignty, and realize you're dealing with an irrational policy, the most extreme policy of the rules-based order and the zero-sum mentality. So be careful, negotiate where possible, but put your interest in your economic growth somewhere else. The United States is not going to be a reliable economic growth partner. They just want to make money. And if that serves the purpose of Nigeria, fine. But Nigeria has to realize you're in a period right now where you have a irrational leader of the West who is actually isolating the United States. The United States is not stronger. The United States is weaker now because of what we did in Nigeria. We're weaker in Africa for kicking South Africa out of the group of 20. We're weaker in the Western Hemisphere for militarily seizing the president of another country in Venezuela. This is not strength, this is weakness. And so you have to seize the moment of the collapse of the West, of the system driven by the United States, and look towards a more viable program. What Nigeria needs is long-term, low-interest credit for infrastructure. Billions of dollars of long-term, 15-year low-interest loans so you can build massive nuclear power plants, more hydroelectric plants, thermal plants, and of course gas. Nigeria has the largest gas reserves in the world, to my understanding, and has never applied them properly. Gas is a key for you to develop your energy. And the environmentalists and others just tell them, leave us alone. You built your countries on oil, gas, and coal. We're going to do the same. And this has to become the number one priority of the Nigerian government, dealing with security. But this will help security. The more people who are working, and the more people who are living better, and the more people who respect their elected government for helping them, this will be a